Coming up on today's Next Fan Up podcast.
Kind of place where the flies chip in and get the screen door fixed.
That is a Pro Bowl stat there, Doc. Well done. When are you Americans going to learn? I mean, McCarthyism, it's not the greatest thing.
Neil, I'm all out of beer. You can't go down this path.
People think there's any magic going on here, then they need to go and do something else with their lives.
We made it to Wildcard weekend. Here we go.
That's how we start. Yeah, baby.
32 super fans.
Where do the reports come from? Did you get an initial?
One pod Vader.
That's football.
Every angle of the NFL covered.
All that kind of stuff, I get it.
This,
no question about it,
is Next Fan Up.
We're going to unleash hell here in December.
Hello and welcome to the Next Fan Up Super Wildcard Weekend edition of the podcast. What is with this super baloney?
Super.
It's just Wild Card Weekend. Come on, people. I don't care if you added one extra game. It didn't make it super. Just made it extra. How about that? It's just extra. Hey, everybody. Pod Vader here. I'm not bitter because my team's not in it. No, that has nothing to do with it at all. But come on.
Polish your rings. Polish your
terrible.
rings. Polish your rings, son.
Done. Let me introduce you to some of the voices that are joining me here today. Neil from across the pond, our Washington superfan, whose team is in the playoffs. Hello, Neil.
Hey, James. Hey, guys. I don't really want to say much here because I think we need to give James the floor and so he can apologize profusely for the heinous crime his Philadelphia Eagles team did to the New York Giants last week.
Well, James, our Eagles superfan, who spent the first half of the Tuesday podcast doing just that, not apologizing, instead just railroading his Eagles.
I mean, why apologize for something that benefited Neil in the first place? So, and I stand by everything I said on Tuesday. So if any Giants fan has a problem about it, please feel free to email. I have some cheese and, some wine to go with that while I play my tiny violin.
Are you trying to tell me
at gmail.com? You walked all over he gave me a perfect opportunity to mention the email address, and then you walked right over it.
Don't get in a bad mood because your team's not in the playoffs.
Nextfanup@gmail.com is the way to send those emails to James. The award-winning gridiron chef, Doc, is with us again. Hello, Doc.
Greetings, salutations to the entire super fan nation. Super?
Right. We are super fans. It's not super weekend. Unless it's for the super fans, I would love to call a game. Let's see. We'll get there. And, of course, we are blessed by the Raiders super fan who's not in the playoffs, Monty. Hello, Monty.
Yeah, now that the season is completely over, I'm excited to talk about the upcoming NFL draft with you guys. Let's go.
Not quite yet. As our format will do, we will discuss all of the playoff matchups first, and then we'll get into some of the non-playoff teams and some of the off-season news, as there's a couple of things actually involving my team. So we will talk a little Patriots a little bit later on. But before we get there, we still have some other business to attend to. Wrapping up the Pigskin Pick'em season, I had 14 straight up last week, which was good for a three-way tie for first. But Jordan, our Titan superfan, won the group with 179 correct straight-up picks. The power rankings finished with 13 correct in Week 17. I don't know what the power rankings total was because I'm lazy. And I missed a couple weeks and missed a couple picks in the Pigskin Pick'em group, and I'm not going back through the spreadsheet to count which ones were right and which ones were wrong. Actually did well against Vegas in Week 17, too, with 12 correct. A week that I told everyone not to gamble because it's a tough week to place your bets, but I did pretty well. I did not win the pool, though, because I lost to a guy who had 13 correct. So I'd like to thank the Dallas Cowboys and Arizona Cardinals very much, especially Arizona, because Kyler Murray also hurt me in DFS, which was a lovely blow as well.
Look, man, it's called a high ankle sprain between you and Dr. Jones, our Cardinals fans. You guys need to lay off Murray. I want to see you run around with a high ankle sprain and throw a football.
Then he shouldn't have played. That's all. don't play. And then I don't pick you for my DFS team, and then I would have won first place.
Fine until the defensive lineman landed on his leg.
Listen,
and aggravated the injury.
Listen,
that's not his fault. He did what he was supposed to do. He played.
Rub some dirt on it and suck it up. Let's go.
Oh, wow.
Come on, you're a football player.
Okay.
I'm sensing.
Okay, I'll remember this next time your quarterback busts his ACL in week 1.
Love is in the air.
It's definitely not.
Love and friendship. Love.
Oh, man.
Let's get to some useless stats, shall we? Oh, yeah. I got some great ones for you this week because we're going to talk a little bit about the business of the NFL. From Sportico, NFL telecasts during the 2020 regular season averaged 15.4 million viewers, according to Nielsen. That is from their live same-day data, a year-over-year decline of 7%. From 16.5 million in 2019. The national Sunday afternoon window shared by Fox and CBS saw declines in line with the overall drop at 4% and 9% respectively, while NBC's Sunday Night Football saw viewership decrease by 13% from the 2019 season. Now, take that into context with this stat from Axios. The most important 30-day stretch of the year for the television industry begins this weekend because the 14 most watched U.S. TV broadcasts of 2021 could take place this next month. 13 NFL playoff games, up from 11 due to expansion, and Monday's college football playoff national championship. The NFL delivered 71 of last year's 100 biggest TV audiences, including 11 of the top 15, and the college football playoff national championship last year ranked 18th in terms of total viewers. The only 2020 broadcasts that rivaled the NFL postseason or the college football title game were both presidential debates, the vice presidential debate and the State of the Union. So take politics out of it, and the only thing people are watching on television is football. Fans will be allowed at 4 of the 6 NFL playoff games this weekend. Tennessee will have the largest audience with 14,571 fans in the stands. The Bills are going to allow 6,700 of their mafia in. The Saints have 3,000 people allowed. Steelers maybe will have 2,500 fans. And then next weekend, Green Bay will have very limited audience, probably only first responders, and Kansas City will have the largest at about 17,000.
Just a couple of things there, Jay. First of all, I find it a little bit sad that that's the situation in terms of what people are actually watching on television. There's something that feels a little bit depressing about that. That it's only NFL or in one college game. Is that based on one-off events that you're watching, or is it based on, like, for example, I've just enjoyed the fabulous Queen's Gambit series on Netflix, which I'm sure you guys have probably watched, and but that's based across 7 or 8 episodes. Their figures, I guess. So is this just for things that are just single events?
Right. So single episodes of a television series. So nothing that was on television last year came close to the NFL in terms of what people were watching. And what you just mentioned, the Queen's Gambit on Netflix, that's not even included in the statistics here.
Okay.
That's pay.
So yeah. I'd like to hope that more people watch the series, the Queen's Gambit series, for example, or Succession, another great show I watched last year. The more people watch those series than they did actually all these NFL games, but maybe not. Is that how it works?
Maybe, possibly.
Don't forget that election years traditionally it fluctuates. Plus, the COVID crap. I mean, we are sitting there with bleeding rear ends from sitting on the couch watching streaming and everything. So,
how do I make bleeding rear ends?
All right, bed sores. Is that what they call them? Yeah.
No, I prefer bleeding rear ends. That's a much better way to
No.
All right. I brought all of that up just simply because the NFL is going to be, we lost so many listeners, but you didn't lose anybody. You're still number 1 in viewership. Everybody's got a decline going on in viewership. And so there's nothing really to see there. Yes, while the actual number might be less, you're still number 1. So take that with however you want to take it. And in terms of the audience, I mean, I saw there was another article that was written about how much money the teams are actually losing by not having any audience in the stands. But a lot of that has to do with obviously the markup on parking, the markup on the food that they sell in the stadium, which is why it is so amazing that Atlanta, Doc, has the cheapest prices on food that you can get.
Still why I like Arthur Blank, man. That's huge.
Last note here, in the 19 seasons since realignment in 2020, 30 of the 32 NFL teams have won a division title at least once, including the Buffalo Bills, who this season won their first AFC East division title since 1995. Do you guys know the two other teams since 2002 that have not won a division title?
Cleveland.
Detroit.
You got them both. Cleveland is obviously in the playoffs this year for the first time in forever. The Lions are still out of the playoffs. Perhaps we should start using the Lions as our joke worst team in the NFL.
No, still the Jets.
Still the Jets. All right. So with that said, let's kick off Saturday football at 1 p.m. Eastern. We have the first AFC matchup. It is the Indianapolis Colts at the Buffalo Bills. Our final power rankings have the Colts coming in at 10, the Bills coming in at 3. The Bills are favored by 6.5. And before we get to say anything else, let's hear from Rob, our Buffalo Bills superfan, with his thoughts on the game.
All right. This Saturday, 1 p.m., the Buffalo Bills play the Indianapolis Colts at Bill Stadium in sunny Buffalo, New York in January. Keys for the Bills. On offense, the key is going to be Josh Allen being able to read Indianapolis's very tight zone defense. They do have holes on the deeper end of the field, so I do expect to see some deep shots out of Josh Allen and primarily Stephon Diggs, maybe a little bit of John Brown, who hasn't played much over the past couple weeks due to an injury, but he's back and healthy. So I think you're going to see some big shot put plays from them this week. For the Bills on defense, I think the primary objective is going to be to stop Jonathan Taylor, who's had a bunch of good games, but also a couple of those games were against Jacksonville and Houston. I believe 3 of the past 5 weeks he's played them. And the Bills, although do not have the best run defense, have been shown to, when they want to stop a running team like the Tennessee Titans, they're able to. They did put up Derrick Henry's worst game of the year was against the Bills. Other than that, I think Philip Rivers is going to have a little bit of trouble in January in Buffalo in what will probably be a windy and cold stadium. This is just somewhere he hasn't fared great in his history, and he's not any younger. So I think it's going to be a fun game. I do think the Bills get the dub on Saturday. Thank you.
All right, so there's Rob, who says the Colts are vulnerable down the deep middle, and obviously Jonathan Taylor is going to be a key for the Bills to stop on defense. However, as he points out, Jonathan Taylor's opposition the last 3 weeks included the Jaguars and the Texans, 2 of the worst teams against the run, especially the Texans. So all of that with a grain of salt. I'm looking at how we're all picking here, and it looks like we're all taking the Bills except for Monty.
God, and I hate to do it, Pod. I'm a huge fan of superfan Rob. But I'm looking across the slate of games, and there's usually an upset or 2 on Wildcard weekend. And due to all the injuries, I just think that the Colts are looking pretty good. So, Rob, I'm sorry, buddy, but give me a little Adam and Eve on a raft, wreck 'em, a cup of muck, and an upset special.
That was really good. I really like that.
Yeah,
that was bravo. All it needed was your dog to be barking in the background.
He is now. He just lifted up his head. He's wondering what the hell's going on up here.
Yeah, getting a dog to bark in the background instead of a bell to go ding, 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 that might even be a better addition to that drop.
I mean, I just think it's going to be a close game. I think the The Colts are an incredibly balanced team. I love Darius Leonard. I think he's a playmaker. Obviously, they can run. That carries. There's really no weather this weekend. It's going to be beautiful in upstate New York. I just think it's going to be close. And Frank Reich is a good coach. I just don't think they're going to be intimidated. I think they've got a little playoff experience. And it kind of feels like, the Bills have just been on autopilot, killing it in the regular season. Reminds me a little bit of the Ravens last year, who just won the regular season, went into the playoffs and lay an egg. So, sorry, Rob, it just wouldn't shock me if the Colts pulled off an upset, even though their quarterback is terrible.
Just to highlight that weather note, 36 degrees, partly cloudy, a very, very slight breeze. So there really is no weather to report. But, Doc, you do say watch out for the lake effect snow.
Yeah, always. We live around the Great Lakes, and sometimes, where I live on the lake, it's sometimes you look outside, there was nothing on the radar. There was nothing on the satellite. It just drums up over precipitation. And off of Lake Erie there, I know my boys in Buffalo, believe me, I've gone there and prepared for one type of weather, maybe two, and then it changes in a couple hours. Anybody in Western New York will tell you that. So, and I don't think it's both, especially Indy counting on the run game, snow games in Buffalo are a blast to watch, and they're a blast to attend. Probably not, but do not count your chickens, because it can drum up overnight, can drum up in a couple hours. So
I think a bad weather game would be beneficial to Indianapolis, actually. I think they're built to run. They got a stout defense. I think that the weather wouldn't impact Indianapolis as much as it would some of these other teams.
Well, it's also built for wide receivers, because they know where they're going and you don't. They're always a half a step ahead, and they got a couple of unguardable receivers right now. So,
yeah, except for the quarterback in Indianapolis, looks like he's shot putting the ball every time he throws it down the field. So,
Monty,
if it doesn't take his entire upper body to turn his hips to throw a football, maybe he'll be okay.
James,
but
convinced me. I'm going with Buffalo. Sorry, Pod. Philip Rivers is terrible.
Monty, I have two words for you. Chaz Green. Does MD know on this podcast what Chaz Green is most famous for?
I'm afraid to ask.
Give up the single game sack record to the Falcons, or was he a Falcon? He gave up 7 sacks.
You're an aficionado like myself there, Monty. You're right. He gave up 5 of the 6 sacks to Atlanta, to Claiborne, wasn't it, in that game?
Yes, Claiborne.
And of course, Anthony Costanzo is out of this game, and who's playing left tackle? Chaz the man. He's going to be there, and I think that could be a real difference maker in this game. I agree with Rob in terms of they missed Malik Hooker most of the season, haven't they? And that's created a bit of a gap there in the middle of the defense. But in sort of he's free safety, isn't he? So, but yeah, Chaz Green. That's the big question mark for me. I'll be watching that from play one. How are they going to cope without Costanzo at left tackle?
I forgot one more useless stat. 5 teams averaged at least 30 points per game in 2020. The Bills happened to be second. The Packers averaged 31.8. The Bills 31.3. The Bucks 30.8. The Titans 30.7. And the Saints 30.1. And that is the most teams in the single season in NFL history.
Pod, Bills are number 1 first down passing, 72%, 9 yards per. They are putting up numbers right now that no defense in the league can compete with. If they continue on that path, this is going to be a blowout. If we had to get the same old Josh, which is just like Lamar, and I'm going to roll my Saints in there too for crapping the bed. Playoffs are a different animal altogether. We don't know.
And Doc, don't forget that the last 2 times that the Bills had 13 wins for the season, which is their franchise record, both those years they went to the Super Bowl.
Different era, Ironically, Frank Reich was on those teams, right?
I can do useless stats too,
Oh man!
Before you give me that injury report, James, I was gonna roll naturally into it. Now you ruined my natural roll into your injury report. But
you're welcome.
I was going to bring up Isaiah McKenzie, who had 3 big touchdowns in week 17 as a possible DFS play for this week, but I see that he's questionable. And of course, Cole Beasley is the reason why Isaiah McKenzie was playing last week. And maybe he's back, but maybe he's not. What's the deal there?
I'm going to start with the Colts since we already talked about Anthony Costanzo, who was placed on injury reserve on the first of the month. Running back Jordan Wilkins is still on the COVID-19 list, so keep an eye on that to see if he comes back. Will Holden, the tackle, he is also going to be out, along with cornerback Rock Ya-Sin and safety Kari Willis. Running back Jonathan Taylor has a shoulder injury. He is questionable for the game. And defensive tackle DeForest Buckner, ankle injury, did not practice on Tuesday. So
he's playing.
Keep an eye out for that as well.
He's playing.
He's playing, but
yep.
As far as the Bills, the receiving core a little banged up there. Tight end Reggie Gilliam will be out. Wide receiver Cole Beasley also not playing as of today. He did not practice. He is currently listed as out. So unless that changes over the next 2 days, we don't know. Isaiah McKenzie is questionable with an ankle injury, and Stephon Diggs has an oblique injury, so he did not practice on Wednesday either.
He's going to play. There's no way.
Yeah, he's playing. And Beasley, listen, Beasley is a 50-50, but I'm going to tell you something. Who'd they get back? John Brown. Who was their number one receiver last year? John Brown. He's more like Beasley than he is Diggs. When you add Dawson Knox into that, that's still a 400-yard passing day without Cole Beasley. So I don't think they're going to miss anything.
All right. So we're all going with the Bills because Monty, despite his awesome live upset special call, has changed his pick to the Bills.
I think he forgot who the quarterback of the Colts was.
Between the quarterback and then Rob, I didn't have the heart to do it. I'm rooting for Buffalo. Let's go Buffalo.
Yeah.
Look, a couple of road teams will win this weekend. The Colts just aren't one of them.
All right. The next game up is the Los Angeles Rams at the Seattle Seahawks. And we have a lovely recording here from our Seahawks superfan, Justin.
The Seattle Seahawks and the LA Rams meet for the third and final time this year, this time in the playoffs. I expect this is going to be a matchup of defenses. Both teams have won one game. The Rams won a blowout earlier this season. The Seahawks won decisively just a few weeks ago. The big change has been the Seahawks defense. Early in the year, they were nothing short of a historically bad defense. However, Jamal Adams returning from injury and the addition of Carlos Dunlap has changed that unit completely. Over the last 6 weeks of this season, they've actually been one of the absolute best defenses in the NFL. The Rams have fielded one of the best defensive units all year. Of course, that owes primarily to the incredible all-world, all-universe play of Aaron Donald, as well as some amazing pieces behind him, especially Jalen Ramsey in the secondary. This is a game that I think is going to be low scoring. I think the fact that both of these units' strength right now is on the defensive side of the ball is going to lend itself to a low scoring affair, a very grinded out affair. Early in the season, the Seahawks had one of the best and most prolific offenses in the league, but it's cooled significantly. A lot of that owes to a complete turnaround in the performance of Russell Wilson. Early in the year, he looked like the shoe-in bona fide guaranteed MVP candidate. But over the last half of the year, he's been frankly fairly ordinary. Even late in the season, against division foes he's seen again, his performance has been fairly uneven. However, he's still much more of a sure thing than you're going to be seeing out of the Rams. Jared Goff has been frankly not very good all year. He also had thumb surgery just a few weeks ago. It's not clear if Jared Goff is going to be playing at all. If he's not playing, John Walford will be making his second career start. He does not throw the ball as well as Jared Goff, and he certainly does not have his command of the playbook. However, he brings an element of running and speed that Jared Goff lacks. This is something that could cause some challenge for the Seahawks and steal some first downs for the Rams. Frankly, as a Seahawks superfan, I would much rather see Jared Goff out there, especially knowing that even if he is throwing the football, his thumb can't be at 100%. That being said, I'm pretty confident going into this game. The versions of both of these teams that we're seeing are the ones that we saw just a few weeks ago. The Seahawks defensive first, managing the offense, Russell Wilson avoiding mistakes like he had at the mid part of the season. As long as they do that, they have a great shot to win this game. If, for whatever reason, the offense finally turns around and gets back to their first half of the season form, that'll probably have a lot to do with DK Metcalf. He has been absolutely explosive this year, except in his meetings against Jalen Ramsey. This is his third and final chance to show that he's the better man. If he's able to break away, and if Russell Wilson's able to find him, this is a matchup that could become a blowout. If that doesn't come to fruition, though, I still like the Seahawks here. They have the advantage on offense. They are, I'm going to call them close enough on defense that they're going to be competitive from that standpoint. I also think they have a special teams advantage. Michael Dixon has been one of the best punters in the NFL. He's been particularly adept at long booming punts and at trapping opposing offenses inside the 10-yard line. In a defensive battle, being able to control the field positioning is going to be really important. Jason Myers has been fantastic. He set a team record for consecutive field goals made this year, including nailing a 61-yarder. As long as special teams continues to play well, as long as the defense continues to play well, and as long as the offense can at least avoid mistakes, I think the Seahawks are clearly a superior team. If we end up in a situation, though, where things are close, where the Seahawks are down, even though I haven't liked his play of lately, it's very hard to bet against the ability of Russell Wilson to put on the Jets, put the team on his back if they do need a couple of late scores, and completely blow this game away. That's an element, that's an X factor that the Seahawks have that the Rams simply do not possess. As a result, I'm pretty comfortable calling this a likely win for the Seahawks. I'm gonna say the score something in the area of 20-13. I'll give them a touchdown and a couple of field goals.
All right, so Justin says this is going to be a low-scoring affair, a matchup of defenses, which I can't believe I kind of agree with, despite the fact that the Seahawks defense was so pitiful at the beginning part of the year. But he does bring up the fact, first of all, giving us a punter in his review, that is just unacceptable. But since he does bring it up that this will be a defensive matchup, having the advantage at punting actually makes a lot of sense. You pin the other team as far back as you possibly can, as much as you can. So with the Seahawks having all the advantages, picking the Seahawks at 20-13, I don't necessarily disagree with that statement. Seahawks, 5th in the power rankings. The Rams finished 12th in our power rankings. I see here we all like Seattle except for Neil.
Yeah, I'm on the Wolford bandwagon for sure here. I'm sure you guys have been on it from time to time. The Rams are the 8th team in the last 25 seasons to lead the NFL in scoring defense, total defense, and pass defense in a single season. And 5 of the previous 7 teams went to the Super Bowl. I can see the Rams have been one of these teams this year, haven't they? Where one week they look fabulous, and the next week they look terrible. I'm never quite sure. I'd be very interested to know if Cam Akers is going to be playing, if he's on the injury report, because I think if he's playing, they will win. And I'd like to just say I haven't heard, obviously, what Justin said. Did he use the term or anything close to the term of letting Russell cook? Because if he did, I think we should delete the recording and not put it in the podcast.
I don't believe he used that exact phrase, but I do believe he
did. He use the word cook?
I don't believe he did. Listen, you're ruining the magic here, Neil. People need to think that we actually just heard Justin speak.
If people think there's any magic going on here, then they need to go and do something else with their lives.
Thank you. I was hoping you were going to say something like that. All right.
Oh my gosh.
You mentioned Wofford there, but Jared Goff could actually end up starting. He did pass for 3,952 yards and 20 touchdowns.
Have you ever had a broken finger, man?
Let me interject right now and put that part of the injury report out there. Jared Goff is out.
Yeah. When I was at
Goff is expected to start.
Jay, James, hold on.
I'm telling you what shows right here. His status is out for Saturday. So unless something changes over the next day, he's out.
Jay, he's got a broken thumb, and I can tell you, when I was about 21 years old, I punched a horse, and I broke 2 fingers in my hand, and I'm telling you, I couldn't do anything with that hand for about 4 or 5 weeks. There's no chance in hell he's playing on Sunday or Saturday.
What were you doing to that poor horse?
I was about, why?
Why did you?
Because it stood on my foot. I was standing. I had a friend, okay, and I say had a friend.
All right. I don't know what you and your friend are doing with the horse, but I think we might want to keep this thing moving along.
A man punched a horse. Well, if Goff is 100% out, but I would say this, and Doc, you had a quarterback who had a thumb problem, wore a brace for a while, and seemed to do okay with it. So I still think there's a chance that Goff could end up playing.
Yeah, listen, I don't know what it says.
No.
He's throwing.
3 weeks with that brace.
Yeah, but he was also out 4 weeks.
Yeah, he was out for 3 weeks. Goff,
I don't know if it's the same thing
so far.
Yeah. Goff's thrown in practice. He is limited, but McVay said he's
practice, but he's still out.
But he's still not. McVay said officially he's not making a decision until about an hour before game time.
Yeah, he just
believe him. So,
but he's not playing, is he? Come on.
I think he's playing.
Shouldn't
put it on the board. Is that one of our Thrive Fantasy app over-unders? Is Jared Goff playing? That should be. There you go.
Okay, so Jay, does Goff playing actually change your pick? Because again,
no, I'm still going. I'm still taking the Seahawks here. And
I'm watching him throw the ball right now. He looks fine, but that's in practice. I'm watching him throw the ball right now in practice. Yeah.
What sort of ball?
A tennis ball.
A rubber ball.
All right. Let's hit all of the injury report, because I do believe I saw Cam Akers is back in practice as well.
Good.
He's limited
up here with, finishing up with the Rams here. Micah Kaiser and Michael Brockers are also listed as out. Whitworth was placed on injury reserve a couple of days ago. David Edwards and Natrez Patrick are listed as questionable. I do not see Akers listed on today's injury report, so he should be good to go.
He's limited, though. He's barely going to touch the ball.
For the Seahawks.
Malcolm Brown's going to get the majority of the carries because he did play. Listen, Akers played in Week 17, but he is limited with that ankle, so you expect he'll get some carries. That's about it. So,
all right, for the Seahawks, Carlos Hyde, illness. Greg Olsen, foot. Jason Stanley, hamstring. DJ Dallas, ankle. And Mike Iapati, neck, all listed as out for this Sunday's game. And that illness is not COVID-related. Dwayne Brown, Jaron Reed, Chris Carson, and Jamal Adams are all listed as questionable with respective injuries to shoulder, hand, foot, and oblique.
No weather problems here. 46 degrees, 40 degrees low, mostly cloudy, slight wind. So it will not be raining in Seattle on Saturday. However, it looks like Friday and Sunday have your umbrella and galoshes ready, but you already know that in Seattle. All right, our next game, moving right along here, the Saturday night game, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Washington Football Team. And it just so happens that I don't have a recording or a write-up here from the Washington Football Team superfan. It's a shame.
All right, we'll just skip the game.
Oh, he's here on the show. Hey, Neil, how are you?
Oh, I thought you were speaking to James.
Just so you are aware, the Buccaneers finished the season 6th in our power rankings. The Washington Football Team 13. The Bucs are favored by 8.5 in this one, Neil.
Well, you get all these inane stats, which no doubt you're going to tell us all about. That Tom Brady's got more. Tom Brady's got more career playoff wins than our franchise. Ha ha ha.
Nope.
Oh, very funny. But I would say, Washington. It's the first team since 2013, Jay. Since the 2013 Seahawks, I think it was, to allow 20 points or fewer in each of the last 7 games of the season. And that is how we're going to win this game. If we're going to win this game, that's how we're going to do it. We're going to get pressure up front, and our defense is going to win the game. Because you guys probably all saw the game against that complete waste of a time bottom feeder we played on Sunday night. I can't remember what they're called, the Beagles, and they're just. I mean, they're terrible, and they're a defense with I think 0 starters from day one. And our offense was just, it couldn't move the ball. It was embarrassing, to be honest with you. And I don't see it improving much. Smith looked like a man who was quite literally playing on one leg. And Gibson wasn't fully fit either. McLaurin isn't fully fit. And they're the guys who can put points for us on the board. We're not going to do it here, Jay. I just don't see it. I'll pick my team to win because I want them to win, and it'd be fabulous if we won. But We've moved up a class here, and I can't see us, even if Evans doesn't play, I can't see us winning here unless our defense is absolutely lights out. And remember, the one thing we have in our favor is that Brady is not the running quarterback, so he is going to be a target to aim for. And you know me, Jay, I do love cutting the head off the snake.
Yes, you do. Washington's defense ranked second in total yards allowed per game, second in passing yards allowed per game, fourth in points allowed per game, and tied for fifth in interceptions and sixth in sacks. As we know, Neil, you are a big proponent of defense wins championships, but the Tampa Bay defense allowed the fewest rushing yards per game and ranked tied fourth in sacks on the season.
It's one of those things. A lot of the media this week has been about Chase Young and the Washington front four, but let's not forget our offensive line has had trouble keeping a clean pocket for any of the quarterbacks who have had the misfortune of standing there during the season. So that could be.
You're a dink and dunk offense, though, right?
Barely.
So get the ball out within 2 seconds. You won't be affected. But I'll tell you how to beat Brady. Number one, do you boys know this is his first road wildcard game? Correct, Pod?
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you beat Brady or Breeze? One thing. What's the kryptonite?
Rush him up the middle.
Up the frickin' middle, right? Push that pocket, and you got some studs in the middle there, Neil. It changes the whole game plan. Ask the Minnesota Vikings when they played the center of that Saints line last year, the year before, or 2 years before. Listen, that's their kryptonite. Just push him up the middle. How did the Saints beat Brady and shut him out in that debacle of a midseason game this year? Up the middle, unlimited pressure, move him off his perch, take a half a second off his throwing times and his reads. That's how you beat him. And if they can do that, they have a chance. If they don't, it'll be a long night.
Indeed.
I mean,
is Evans playing?
Maybe.
I believe Evans is playing.
Evans is expected to play. He is currently listed as questionable with his knee injury.
They don't need him.
They don't. They have enough other weapons around. I mean, that's the thing. Brady is, I have to say this too about Brady. He's never had this array of weapons surrounding him. He's never had 4 wide receivers and a tight end and a running back.
2 running backs.
It's also true.
We don't even talk about Scotty Miller anymore. Think about how much we talked about him at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, that's not helping, guys. Move on.
Well, I'm saying all this for you, Neil, because you are the only one taking the Washington.
Get a fine bottle of scotch, my friend. It could be a long night.
I mean, let's
start drinking till the second quarter. So.
Neil, here's some good news. Devin White is listed as out with an illness, non-COVID related, and Carlton Davis, the quarterback, with his inner thigh injury going on there, he's listed as out as well. So your offense may have a chance, provided that Tampa Bay doesn't blitz
out on Thursday with an illness. You can overcome an illness in a couple days.
Sure.
Give that man some fluids, and he'll be just fine.
Well, James, I can tell you one thing. If Washington wins this game, he's not the only one who's going to have an inner thigh injury.
Oh, man.
Pierre-Paul is also listed as questionable. For the Washington football team, names showing up on the injury report include Kinder Fuller, Alex Smith, Antonio Gibson, Terry McLaurin, and Brandon Scherf, all listed as questionable with respect to injuries, of course. Alex Smith, I think, is the big one here, is whether this game is close or laughable by halftime, because one of the things I'm concerned with is, as Neil said, he barely finished the game on one leg Sunday night. And the handful of times that Philadelphia did decide to blitz, he didn't take the time to read through anything because he couldn't move. He just chucked the ball out of bounds. So Tampa Bay finds a way to get pressure on Smith quickly and force him to make fast decisions. That dink and dunk won't have time to work.
I mean, the Alex Smith story is obviously a great one.
Comeback player of the year. We know. And
Chase Young, I think, is the defensive rookie of the year. So there's some good stories happening there in Washington. But you can't go into the playoffs at 7-9 and expect.
There's always stories. There's always stories in Washington. At least this year, there have been some positive stories.
Remember Riverboat
Hey, look.
Ron? He went
Look,
into
the
the
last
playoffs
7-9.
7-9. Yeah,
7-8-1.
7-1.
Yeah, the last 7-9 team to win a division also won a playoff game. That was the Seahawks.
Yeah, it's one of the most ridiculous accusations you can throw at a team who finished like 7-9 or 6-10. If you win your division, that's what the game is all about. That's it. End of story. The game is about winning your division. You build your rosters to win your division. If you win your division, you're in. Doesn't matter if you're 2-14 or 14-2.
No, I agree with that. But then once you're in the tournament, all bets are off. 7-9.
Well, honestly, Jay, you know what it's like. The talent level in the NFL is so high across all the teams that it only takes a few plays here and there, and you can get a rub of the green, a bit of luck, and we could be in the Super Bowl against the Bills.
This is a perfect example, Pod, of being the prettiest you know what. and once you step outside that restaurant, the fact is that you might be ugly as sin, but in Denny's you're still the prettiest of something.
You're going to make Jay cry in a minute if you don't be careful.
Doc, is your recipe Denny's inspired?
Now I'll do a Grand Slam breakfast. Sure, why not? Yeah.
What's your recipe this week?
Stuffed Yorkies.
Oh, nice.
Am I talking your language, son?
Oh, absolutely. I love Yorkshire pudding.
All right. Well, these are minis. Okay.
Nice.
So you just do the mini muffin tin. Stuff it with a little duck salad. Just get some mushrooms, chop them up fine, and some bacon grease. Stuff the bottom of that Yorkie, and then whatever beef you want. I like sirloin. Chop it up nice and fine, some roast beef, stuff it in there, put a little gravy, and then finish it with a horseradish cream. All you got to do, not big, just get some horseradish, get a little sour cream, mix it up, top that thing up. These are both appetizers and also a main entree. Stuff, for God's sakes, guys, you can buy Yorkshire pudding premix recipe, right? They're so simple. Making a duck salad is just chopped up mushrooms and a little bacon. You can make beef gravy. You can cook a damn roast, and you can make a horseradish sour cream. It is so simple, and they are so delicious.
Doc, one may argue that chopping up a sirloin and putting it into this is rather ostentatious. Shouldn't one use a different cut of beef?
You can put whatever beef you want, top round, bottom round, whatever you're doing for Sunday roast beef. Right, brother?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I did a sirloin tip, which is a weird roast because I got it on sale. But, man, if you slow cook that thing and a little onion jus, it comes out, it falls apart. Just stuff it in the Yorkie. You get these in a lot of pubs, right? With a pint, you see stuffed Yorkies. And so I think the kicker in this thing is the duck salad. If when you chop cremini mushrooms nice and fine, when
you said it, Doc, I was thinking beef cheek.
There you go. That'll work.
Yeah. It's nice, sort of broken up, lovely, it's tender.
Yep. It's a very underused piece of beef, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. If you have it in your pressure cooker, very nice.
Yep.
By the way, weather not a factor in Washington. 30 degrees is the low, so it'll be chilly. A slight breeze, 12 miles per hour out of the north.
Did you notice that a subtle hint from Jay that he was finished with the food talk?
Well, it is time for to move on to the Sunday games. With the Sunday games, we kick off at 1 p.m. on ESPN. The Baltimore Ravens are at the Tennessee Titans. This game will also be on NBC. Before I get into the details, let's hear what Don had to say about this one.
Hey, everyone. This is Don, the Ravens superfan. I'm actually feeling pretty good about it. I'm feeling better about it this year than I did last year, believe it or not, even though the Ravens are, they're not the number one seed coming into the playoffs. Just the way they've been on the roll. The past 5 games. I mean, every game has been a win or you're out type scenario, which ended up being very true. They had to win every single game to get in the playoffs. Obviously, they've had the most rushing yards over those 5 games than any other team in NFL history, over a 5-game span. That spread running game it's different than in the past years, and I got to give credit to Greg Roman. I didn't actually think that he was able to really change the scheme on the fly like that, but he has. Defense has some things to be desired in the deep passing game, but I think it's something that can be corrected. Obviously, Derrick Henry is going to be a huge issue. That's why they signed Calais Campbell and Derek Wolfe in the offseason. They got to stop him. That's the first thing. Be careful about the trickery because the Titans will get tricky with Ryan Tannehill bootlegs and trick passes and things like that. But I feel better about it overall than I thought I would. A couple weeks ago. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I don't see the Titans' defense really stopping too much. I think this time, third time's the charm. I think the Ravens are going to do it this time. 30-27 Ravens.
So Don thinks that this is going to be a high-scoring affair. Does say that the Ravens' defense is vulnerable to some deep passing. He predicts a 30-27 score, obviously in favor of the Ravens. Jordan does have a write-up, and I'll pull that up in just a moment. The Ravens are 7th in our power rankings. The Titans are 9th. The point spread is 3 in favor of the Baltimore Ravens. Before I get to the one outlier on this one, why don't I go to Jordan's write-up?
It's worth saying that I agree with every word that Don said there. That was fantastic, Don. Well done. Is that better, Jim?
Sure. Jordan says, I know everyone thinks the Ravens are the hottest team in the world and the biggest wildcard threat, but the Titans will be seeking their third win over Baltimore in the last 12 months. Don actually brought that up. The best way to appreciate the Titans offense this year is to look at how bad our defense is. Near at the bottom of the league in stats like pressure rate, sacks, third down conversion percentage, and yet this team went 11-5. By far the best offense Tennessee has ever had. If something goes wrong, people will blame Tannehill because people like narratives, but the stats just don't bear it out. Tannehill and the entire offense have been incredible. They are playing with a historically bad defense in terms of sacks and still winning. You look at other defenses in NFL history with as few sacks as we've had, and they are 2-14, 3-13. The offense has been nothing short of fantastic. I seem to remember a Patriots team that won a Super Bowl with a historically bad defense, but just
no,
saying.
they didn't.
Yeah, they actually did. As bad as our defense has been, we are oddly good against mobile quarterbacks. The upside of not being able to generate any pressure whatsoever is there's less room for the quarterback to escape. This defense had its best game of the year against Josh Allen and was the first to figure out Lamar in the playoffs last year and contained him again this year. The two things we are good at is turnovers and short yardage goal line runs. This is a good fit against Baltimore in the playoff game last year. We had multiple 4th-and-1 stops. If the Ravens find themselves in a 4th-and-1 situation, they'd be much better off treating it like a 4th-and-7. I can see this game going either way. I think it's close to a 50-50. Will Henry be able to completely wear down Baltimore again? They basically spent their offseason bulking up front on defense in order to stop Henry. That's something Don brought up. That's why you bring in a Calais Campbell. Will our defense be able to get any stops? Will we make field goals? Who knows? I will say about Vrabel, it sounds cliche, but this team really does perform best when we're underdogs. The more buzz Baltimore is getting, the more it's reminding me of the lead up to the playoff game last year. If you disrespect the Titans, you get a Henry stiff arm. On the other hand, once you give us credit, we'll remind you that our defense can't stop anyone and look terrible. With this game, I think we'll see the good Titans, and we seem to match up well against Lamar for whatever reason. Titans 30, Ravens 24. Playoff Henry goes for 150, which is a conservative estimate. Tighten up. I got to tell you, Jordan, there's one other thing you've got to bring up. The fact that these two teams hate each other. They had that little incident earlier this season where Harbaugh didn't even bother to shake the hand of Mike Vrabel at the end of the game that ended in overtime where Derrick Henry took over. And I suspect we're going to see a very similar situation, just like you said. It's going to be a close game, comes down to who has the ball at the end of the game, but I do think it'll end up being the Tennessee Titans pulling it out at home in front of 14,000 fans. Give me Tennessee as my upset special. How about that?
Yeah. So he mentioned kicking. And he's right to be concerned about kicking because Kostowski is still on the COVID list. The replacement kicker they had out there Sunday to put that game winner through.
Slow man.
My goodness. When he doinked that, I thought the game was going into overtime, to be perfectly honest. I didn't think that ball had a chance of going through. He drilled the first one, and the second one was like he'd never kicked before in his life. And I think he missed another kick earlier in the game as well against the Texans. So hopefully it doesn't come down to a field goal for them to win the game, because I don't trust this kicker. I also don't trust Gostkowski if he's healthy enough to play come Sunday. But Jordan is right. I don't know what happens to this defense. This is one of the best defenses in the league last year for the Titans, and this year these guys look like they look like they just played football last month.
It's pass rush, isn't it? It's all pass rush, James. There's no pass rush.
Yeah, nothing.
There's nothing there. There's no pass rush. There's no rallying to the ball on passes. The secondary is Swiss cheese. The linebackers don't flow like they did. And this is mostly the same defense from last year, minus one or two people. I think the only difference between this year and last year really is, gosh, I can't even think of a player who's not there this year from last year.
Logan Ryan.
But this is okay. That still doesn't explain why the secondary is playing the way it is. Even in man-to-man coverage, they're not even contesting 50-50 balls. They're just letting receivers catch the ball on them because they're there.
Mark Andrews could have 200 frickin' yards against that secondary.
Well, they couldn't contain Mark Andrews in the regular season matchup this year, so I don't expect them to be able to contain him this year.
Clowney is a huge disappointment, isn't he? He's now on injured reserve, isn't he?
Who's that?
Clowney.
Who cares?
Yeah, Clowney was on IR for the beginning of the season.
Clowney's not even a top 100 pass rusher in the NFL.
No, but he's a very good run defender.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah.
I will add this to the Titans, who may have a pretty poor defense. They led the league in takeaway giveaway ratio at a plus 11, 23 takeaways, 12 giveaways. So they have that going for them. They may not be able to get a lot of sacks. They may not be able to get whatever, but they're getting enough takeaways, and they don't give the ball up. They don't fumble, and they don't throw interceptions.
Offense is superb, isn't it? I mean, they're very well balanced offensively.
Number 2 in the league, according to this little write-up here.
Their offense is as good as their defense is bad.
396.4 yards per game, 400-plus yards in 6 of their past 7 games, and 4th in the league with those 30.7 points per game. Baltimore allowed only 18.9 points per game, which was second fewest in the NFL. So this is a best offense versus best defense type of matchup.
Doesn't this, guys, even though the Ravens had somewhat of a cakewalk into the playoffs and they padded their stats and they look good and they're a well-oiled machine, but this all boils down to monkey meat back. This is about a guy that's got to prove himself in the playoffs for the first time. If he plays over average, they'll win that game. But I cannot imagine he's getting much sleep the night before.
Well, of course, you've got to remember, Doc, that in his 2 playoff games, the offense has averaged 14.5 points per game compared to a 30.6 points per game in the regular season. That's the average there. So huge difference. And you're right. It's about Jackson, isn't it? It's about Jackson.
Well, and he is throwing the ball downfield much better than he did going into the playoffs last year. But there's a couple of major monkeys right now. They got to get off their back. Number 1, the Saints. We'll get to that. But Lamar Jackson, if he wants to be considered anything but a playoff fraud, he's got to win this game.
Yeah. My concern is with the Ravens is that they have these wonderful regular season runs to the playoffs, and then when they get there, I don't know if it's the coaching of the offense or just jitters, nerves, whatever you want to call it. But sometimes it looks like some of the plays they call, they're just trying to be too cute with what they can do. And it's like, yeah, you've got this, multifaceted backfield. Jackson can take off at any time that he wants to, whether it's pass or design run. You got Ingram, you got Dobbins, you got Gus Edwards back there. Tight ends, pretty much Pro Bowl caliber, both of them when they're completely healthy, and wide receivers to pretty much keep the defense honest. But sometimes it looks like they're trying to do too much, or they just keep it simple, run the read option, hand off,
Yep.
Maybe some multifaceted looks in the backfield with both Dobbins and Ingram back there, so you don't know which one of them is getting the ball. Wham blocks, counter runs, whatever have you, but don't try to get too cute with the jet motion reverse type thing or
agreed.
Don't bust out like a flea flicker or something cute where, Jackson goes out for a pass and the wide receiver trying to throw him the ball. Just keep it simple.
Oh, James going through the whole route tree there.
By the way, this will mark the first time the top two rushing teams will meet in the playoffs in 31 years since the 49ers and Bengals clashed in Super Bowl 23.
There's your over-under prop bet, Pod. Ravens and Titans, plus or minus 475. Yes.
Total offensive yards or rushing yards?
Total rushing yards.
There's
one
number.
even 500. There's even one 500. Yeah.
That is a super high number. I don't think
that is a high number.
I don't think I could take the over on that.
Did last week.
Nope.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's a tough number to take. No weather concerns either before you hit the injuries here. 42 degrees, the high, partly cloudy, no wind, nothing to worry about in this one.
AJ Brown. AJ Brown knee and hand injury is questionable. Darrington Evans has a shoulder injury, also listed as questionable, along with Adoree Jackson, Ben Jones, Dennis Kelly, Darren Bates, and Jeff Swain, along with Roger Saffold. Derek Robertson, the linebacker, is listed as out, but was a full participant in practice on Wednesday, so take that with a grain of salt. For the Baltimore Ravens, guard Patrick McCarry, cornerback Jimmy Smith, defensive end Yannick Ngakoue, and wide receiver Willie Snead IV are all currently listed as out for the game. Sam Cook, the punter, is still on the COVID protocol list, so we'll have to see if he clears that for the game this coming Sunday. Guard DJ Fluker and cornerback Marlon Humphrey are listed as questionable.
It's disappointing with your weather thing, Jay. I mean, you've got half of the population in America storming buildings all over the place, but you can't create a decent storm for a football game.
No. The most anticipated game of the week is not even because of the game. The Chicago Bears at the New Orleans Saints at 4:30 p.m. It will be on CBS. It'll be on Amazon Prime.
Nickelodeon.
You'll also be able to watch it on Nickelodeon. I cannot wait. I mean, obviously, it's going to appeal to a certain demographic that's not necessarily, older or of a certain generation.
What are you trying to say here?
They're probably going to hate it. I'm saying Neil. Probably people of your age probably should watch it on CBS. But I will be watching this on Nickelodeon. I can't wait. I'm dying to see what they do.
Who's announcing it? Do you know?
I don't know who the play-by-play guy is, but Nate Burleson will be the color guy.
Oh, I like him. I like him a lot.
Yeah. So you'll have that.
Usually Nate Burleson and one of the child stars from the Nickelodeon show.
So usually, this is the first time this has ever happened. What are you talking about? Usually,
well, they've done this for the Pro Bowl as well.
Oh well, the Pro Bowl doesn't count. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. I want to hear SpongeBob do a sideline report. That's definitely something I want happening in this game. All right, we have a recording from Chicago Bears Tom, so we can get back to the game. Before I throw to that, Saints are ranked 4th in our power rankings. The Bears are 14th. They are the lowest rated team out of any of the playoff teams here. The Saints are favored by 9.5. Here's Tom.
This is Chicago Tom, your Bears rep. Offensively, the Bears have quite a challenge ahead of them. They're likely going to be missing Darnell Mooney, who has been a big part of the offense over the second half of the season. And that is just going to make it more difficult to move the ball against a very good Saints defense. I will say that if the Bears can't run the ball, they're not going to move the ball, and running the ball against the Saints is going to be a problem. As far as the defense goes, the Bears are likely going to miss linebacker Roquan Smith, and that is going to make stopping Alvin Kamara very difficult. And they will likely continue to miss cornerback Jalen Johnson and Buster Skrine. And it is very likely that Drew Brees will find some open receivers to that side of the field. So overall, the Bears have a tough test. They're missing some key pieces on both sides of the ball. And they're 10-point underdogs, and at least as I speak right now, and as far as I can tell, that's likely just about right. So this is Chicago Tom signing off.
Tom's worried about the fact that Darnell Mooney is probably missing this particular game, as he's been a pretty major source for the Chicago Bears and their offense, and also mentions it's going to be tough for them to stop Alvin Kamara. Feels like he's going to be the key here for the Saints, and mentioned that the line being about 10 points seems just about right to him. Bears lose to the Saints by 10. So he's not feeling optimistic about his own team. I will say that Mitchell Trubisky is making his second career postseason start as the Bears earn their playoff berth for the second time in the past 3 seasons. He passed for 303 yards with 1 touchdown in his first career playoff start during the 2018 Wildcard round. But obviously that got him obviously that got him real far. But I would say that, again, Trubisky's biggest knock is that he's not consistent. He doesn't have any consistency. If he can be good Trubisky, maybe he makes this a closer game. But none of us think that's going to happen. We've all got it as the Saints. I see Neil Amonte's locked it in, and Doc is sort of our de facto Saints fan, although I have a write-up from Chris. But I'll throw it to you, Doc.
This is about as close, I believe, that the Saints have been to a full lineup since week 1. Michael Thomas coming back, obviously a big factor. He's usually good in a playoff game or pretty much any time, 9 and 10 catches for 100, and that adds to Drew's stats. Deontay Harris, who was one of the best return men in the NFL, is finally coming back. We may have our full special teams, and they're always top 5. They're top 5 in every category. But the kryptonite here, this is another monkey and back thing for Drew Brees. Drew looks good. Alvin coming back. Alvin doesn't need to practice, but the whole running back class coming back, and then have 2 healthy tight ends and have a wide receiver 1 and 2. Traquan Smith probably again out. But it's the middle of the offensive line. The Saints currently have the 2 of the 4 best tackles in football, and it doesn't matter. Mike Zimmer penetrated the middle of that line. The pass blocking grade on our centers and 2 guards are not great. If it can be manipulated, just like I talk about with Brady, get him up the middle, force Drew off his perch, you can do just enough to keep it simple and keep them in the game. It comes down to that and how many turnover-worthy plays Trubisky throws, because the defense is a top 5 defense. So this is as much a monkey on the back becoming one as our previous mention of the Baltimore quarterback. I see the Saints having too much at this point. This is a different team that played the Bears the first time around. Drew did fine. It was an overtime game. 31 of 41, but 280, threw the ball too much. Alvin coming back, I think, changes that. When you got Alvin and Michael Thomas in the lineup and you can protect Drew Brees, if all that goes well and they protect up the middle, this is probably a 20-point win. If not, with a little magic, couple turnovers and less turnover-worthy plays from Trubisky, the Bears defense is good enough to keep them in the game. I'm still going to take the Saints by a field goal.
Chris pretty much agrees with he mentions a lot of things that you just mentioned, how the team is basically coming back healthy. He's worried about a little bit of the rust from all these people coming back, but it's the playoffs. Cannot have a game like last year. Expects the defense to play well with Patrick Robinson and Marcus Williams back, though the loss of Quan Alexander is huge. He expects to see Malcolm Jenkins in more of a nickel linebacker role. which will allow Davis to play with more range. The Saints have lost this game more times than I care to remember, but they should win this one and do it comfortably. Saints 31, Bears 14. Anybody got anything nice to say about the Bears? Anyone?
Defense underrated.
Good Mitchell Trubisky if they commit to running the ball with Montgomery.
And we also,
Khalil Mack is beautiful. No matter what restaurant he's in, he would be the prettiest girl at the bar. So I'd like to watch Khalil Mack rough up Drew Brees a little bit myself, but
Khalil Mack won't touch Drew Brees.
We also know
last few times we've got our tackles always shut down the top pass rushers that you can take to the bank. It'd be rare that he even puts a hand on him.
But what the Saints can do is shut down the referees, and we know in recent years the referees have had the final say in these things.
There we go.
So let's face it, that's 14 points already for the Bears.
Yeah.
What is the official injury report, James?
Well, the Saints, like I said, getting a lot of people back. I'm going to drop two names right here. Patrick Robinson and C.J. Gardner-Johnson should be available to return from injury reserve and the COVID list, respectively, come Sunday. We already talked about Alvin Kamara coming back. Michael Thomas as well is coming back. Marcus Williams, the safety, is out with an ankle injury. Taysom Hill is in the concussion protocol. Safety J.T. Gray, defensive end Trey Hendrickson, center Nick Easton. They are all questionable for the game. And, of course, Deontay Harris, he is designated to return from injury reserve as well. Tight end Josh Hill is also listed as out. For the Bears, Jalen Johnson, Buster Screen, Devin Bush, 3/4 of the secondary, all listed as out, shoulder, concussion, and foot, respectively. Roquan Smith and Darryl Mooney, linebacker and wide receiver, both listed as questionable, ankle and elbow injuries.
All right. That brings us to the final game of the playoffs, and that is the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. This game is on NBC Sunday evening. The Browns finished 11th in the power rankings, the Steelers 8th. They are favored by 6. And I am seeing Neil again, alone on an island, calling for the upset special with the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the Cleveland Browns they're the better team than the Steelers. I think there's still questions over Roethlisberger for me, and the defense looks poor. I think if the Browns go into that game with a philosophy of let's do what we do well, which is running the football, and we know with Chubb and with Hunt that they can do that. I think if they stick to that game plan, they'll do it. Now I know COVID's taken more shots at them with I think Stefanski's out, isn't he, for the game? And yes, Alex Van Pelt's going to be calling the plays. But I just, something keeps telling me that finally the Browns are going to make some waves in the league after decades of doing nothing in this league. Then and maybe this is it. And again, we talked about Jackson having this huge game for the Ravens, and I think we can say the same for Mayfield here. It's time for him to step up and do what he can do to win a game. Also, with Alex Van Pelt calling the plays, there'll be more emphasis on Mayfield being involved in the running of the game. So, yeah, give me the Browns in a really close one. Great AFC North battle, but I think times they are changing, Jay.
They are, but unfortunately, you mentioned the magic word COVID. And as Greg, our Steelers superfan, starts his write-up, Steelers hosting the COVID Browns. They also are coming off their only bye week of the year and possibly getting several players back from IR just in time for their most important game of the year so far. Matt Feeler, their left guard, and Robert Spillane, their inside linebacker, are eligible to come off of IR. Cam Hayward, Ben Roethlisberger, Marquise Pouncey, Chris Boswell, TJ Watt, Terrell Edmonds are all expected back for the game after sitting out last week. Joe Hayden is out on the COVID list, but he has missed a few games this year, and Cam Sutton has been playing well in his place, so not much of a drop-off there. Tomlin said this week that it's a nice problem to have plenty of roster options. The first time in a few months the Steelers have had their depth available for a game. No truth to the report that he said they were going to unleash hell in January. Doesn't come off as trippingly from the tongue. Are the Steelers perfect? No. Are they better than the Browns, who are missing a Pro Bowl left guard and their head coach? Yes. Yes, they are. I expect something like a 7-point win over the outcoached Browns. TJ Watt normally has great games against the Browns, so maybe we'll see a playoff record in sacks. But I think the biggest difference in this game will be Cleveland missing their best offensive lineman, Joel Bitonio, who normally lines up against Cam Hayward. And the Steelers have depth at linebacker and getting back their rested defensive leader in Cam Hayward. I think the Cleveland run game will be less effective than last week. And without that being so good, I think it is too much to ask Baker to carry a team without his play caller. 31-21 Steelers, on to Buffalo. By the way, every time Big Ben is in the playoff and doesn't have to play Tom Brady, it results in a Super Bowl berth. Hashtag just saying. He mentioned the sacks there. The Steelers did finish the league number 1 in sacks with 56 on the season and only allowed 14 sacks, which was fewest in the NFL and fewest by Pittsburgh in the Super Bowl era. So that's usually a pretty good combination to winning.
Mm-hmm.
I disagree with that.
Okay.
Entirely. I think the better way to look at it, Jay, is look at the pressures, not the sacks. Sacks are not all sacks are equal, but pressures you tend to find are what the winning teams do.
All right, fair enough. I don't have stats on pressures though. So.
Well, but Jay, don't tell us what you can do.
Anybody besides Neil want to say something good about the Browns? I think COVID is going to be too much. I would say this: if the Browns show up, does that give Alex Van Pelt a possible resume builder? Perhaps he gets a late call for one of these job openings that are out there.
No.
Okay.
And the only thing I'm going to say about the Browns is, 1, they lost to the Jets. 2, this is the second time in 3 weeks they've had a COVID outbreak decimate, either their coaching staff or a player unit on a team. And 3, this is the third time they're, quote, playing the Steelers. I use air quotes on the word playing because last week they were given a gift. I don't trust the Browns.
You must have a stat on that, Jay. How many times does a team win when they play this other team 3 times in a season?
Yeah, I don't have that stat, but it's definitely
it's
an overblown stat.
Also, Neil,
it's an overblown stat.
Doc, you're good with stats. What do you think?
It's an overblown stat, Neil, and no one swept this year. It was a split.
No, I bet when you play 3 times in a year, it's interesting to see. Do you win all 3 games? Did any team ever win all 3 games?
Yes, the team has won all 3 times. Yeah.
Plenty of times.
And unfortunately, my Eagles have been on the wrong side of that twice.
Yeah. That's not surprising, is
it? Monty, we haven't heard from you in a while.
I think that losing this COVID outbreak sucks, terrible timing, but the Browns did lose to the Raiders. I think my favorite part of that team is Nick Chubb. That kid is an awesome running back. I think he's going to be good for a long time. The Steelers don't seem to have a running back, so I guess Big Ben's been doing it forever. Dial it up again, but man, I don't think they're going to unleash hell this January. Sorry, Mike Tomlin.
And guess what? Weather is not going to be a factor. 39 degrees, 25 the low, partly cloudy. So no weather to worry about in this one. By the way, looking at the weather reports for next weekend, if some of these home teams win now, we could be talking next week, Neil.
I hope so. I really hope so. I would feel cheated if we didn't have a playoff game that was in snow or some sort of storm. I love that. Absolutely love it.
Well, Green Bay enters the fray next week too, so you can always count on something icy happening on the frozen tundra redundant of Lambeau Field.
Yeah, but that frostiness was usually between McCarthy and Rodgers, wasn't it?
We're at least all rooting for Cleveland, right? We wouldn't put money on it, but we're all rooting for Cleveland.
I am not rooting for any team in the playoffs that lost to the Jets in the regular season. So, sorry, Rams. That includes you, too.
Hey, Neil, by the way, the answer to your question is it's about a 65% tick that you'll get to 3 wins.
Three
times in the season. So
yeah. Thanks, Doc. I knew
it's well over 60. That's as of 2019, but it's well over 60.
That is a Pro Bowl stat there, Doc. Well done. Fantastic.
Oh, and Neil, I forgot point number 4 about Cleveland. They're still the 3rd best team in their division.
Okay. Do you want to just say something about Kirk Cousins and just to get it out of the way?
Hey, Neil, I'll
He's
also
not in
give
the
you
playoffs. Why would you bring his name up? He's not in the playoffs.
See, there you go.
Hey, Neil, one more in Cleveland. They are the second lowest rated 11-5 team in the last 30 years by quality stats.
Okay.
Other than the 2012 Colts, they are the second lowest in the modern era, according to quality stats, Pythagorean theorem, all that crap. You know,
but you do kind of look at this. You do kind of look at it and think to yourself, are the Steelers really? What were they? 12-4, 13-3, whatever they were.
12-4.
They must be one of the worst. What were they? 12-4. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
They must be
they were
teams.
They were one of the worst undefeated teams when they were 10-11-0. They were one of the worst undefeated teams in NFL history. Yeah,
because Monty made a very good point there. I felt in the sense that they've got no running game in Pittsburgh, and what do you want in the playoffs? You want a good, strong defense, and you want a reliable running game. And
but without it, the one thing Ben does, he gets the ball out quick. That's his excuse. He's throwing the ball like Drew Brees did 5 years ago. No running game, so what? Throw it to Kamara for 5 yards. Well, he's got receivers that the depth of their pass routes, right? That's why he gets it out within 2 seconds.
With more drops than any other wide receiver group in the league.
Yeah, true that.
Have you seen the Eagles receivers?
I'm with Monty. I really want Cleveland to win this game. Nothing against Greg and his Steelers, but I kind of feel like it would be a nice feel-good story in this year of crap we've had. So.
Yeah,
good.
Cleveland deserves it. Cleveland fans deserve that.
Did we do the injury report?
Well, Greg covered all the injuries for the Steelers, so I'll just dispense with the Browns here. Donovan Peoples-Jones is in a concussion protocol, so keep an eye on him throughout the week. Offensive tackle Kendall Lamb was a full participant in practice, but is currently listed as out, along with center Nick Harris and wide receiver Kadero Hodge and guard Joe Bettino. Those last two were placed on the COVID list. Olivier Vernon is placed on injury reserve with an Achilles injury, and then cornerback MJ Stewart, guard Wyatt Teller, centers J.C. Treader, and tackle Jack Conklin, along with defensive tackle Sheldon Richardson, are also listed as questionable.
Who's the guard? Joe who?
What guard?
Is that Betonio?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, but Joe Betonio, yes.
I thought you said Joe Bonio. That's a dog biscuit.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for our playoff coverage. We now move on to teams that are out of it. Before we even get into that, just want to send a shout out to the wide receiver winning the Heisman Trophy, the He Is Man Trophy, going to wide receiver Devontae Smith. Pretty impressive that a quarterback didn't get the award this year.
Finally.
He has been
weird college football season. I truly don't really care too much. I mean, some teams played 8 games and some teams played 4 to 6. So,
well, we're at that point of the year too. Everyone's got to get their votes in if they haven't already for the season awards. I mean, hey, college football finally gave it to a position, not a quarterback. The NFL could do it too. And we've talked about this a little bit. I mean, it's probably going to be Aaron Rodgers, but I think the wide receiver, Devontae Adams, could have been right up there with his teammate.
I think Derrick Henry also gets some votes because he did run for 2,000 yards. Trying to think of any other offensive player that could get some votes for MVP off the top of my head. That's not a quarterback. Stephon Diggs.
I mean, Stephon Diggs definitely had one of the biggest impacts.
Derrick Henry.
As a new player. Yeah. Thanks for listening, Neil. Good job.
I'm sorry, I was asking Monty how thick the ice was in his pond.
Oh, boy. All right.
But yeah, only Diggs and Henry are the only two names off the top of my head I can think of outside of Adams, non-quarterbacks who deserve some type of MVP vote. But, I mean, it's going to be a quarterback, unfortunately. So we can look to one of those 3 getting Offensive Player of the Year.
By the way, I included our preseason power rankings on our prep sheet this week. to go along with the season finale power rankings. And most teams pretty much finish right about where we had them in the preseason. There's obviously some changes. Some of the biggest changes, though, the Washington football team, we had at 31 in the preseason, finishing at 13. That's pretty impressive, Neil.
Well, and in the other direction,
it's NFC East, Jay. It's got stories every year, every week of every year. Fabulous division.
The Bears moved up from 25 to 14, and the Browns moved up from 22 to 11. As we start looking at the teams that are out of it in their draft order, Jacksonville started at 26 and finished in 32. Pretty much what we expected. No news on any potential GMs or coaches here, although it does appear that Urban Meyer's demand for $12 million is going to go left untaken.
Well, you got to think, Matt
the
Rule
Texans did hire a new GM.
Yeah. Sorry, Matt Rule gets what, $9 million a year at Carolina, and how many national championships did he win?
Yeah, I'm not giving. Urban Meyer is not how you get better. I'm telling you that right now. Urban Meyer will have a Nick Saban-like career in the NFL.
I mean, wasn't he the guy who ignored the fact that one of his assistants was beating his wife?
Wife, girlfriend, mistress, all
exactly.
of the above.
So, I wouldn't want that piece of shit in my franchise.
Not to mention Urban Meyer.
You caught yourself earlier and you let that one go by.
Sorry. I just that Urban Meyer guy. No, I wouldn't.
Not a decent human being.
No, a decent human being.
And to speak on his coaching for whatever he does to turn a college around, he ends up leaving due to health reasons. His last two coaching stops, Ohio State and Florida. He took time off after both. Now, granted, Ohio State was complicated by what we just, Neil just mentioned, but there was health problems going on with him as well. He also had health issues, which is why he stepped away from University of Florida, and who knows what stuff he let slide down there. But giving this guy an NFL job is a waste of money, and a slap in the face to, as far as I'm concerned, NFL coordinators who deserve a shot. And not to begrudge any college coach who comes up to this level and does well, but I often feel like every time a college coach does come up and just get the head coaching job instead of a coordinator spot first, they're just snatching a job from a well-deserved, coordinator. I'm still peeved last year that, Robert Saleh and Eric Bieniemy didn't get one of the head coaching vacancies last year, and that was disgusting. Saleh most likely will get one this year, and my concern is that if the Chiefs somehow go ahead on to the Super Bowl, win or lose, Bieniemy's still going to be left out. And I hate that that's their excuse for not giving either one of them, not hiring one of them last year, was that they both made the Super Bowl. So the hell what? Plenty of coordinators going to the Super Bowl with head coaching jobs lined up afterwards.
Bieniemy's already interviewing. They must have changed the rules a little bit on that.
Yeah, he's interviewing.
So people can start. Yeah, he'll get it.
Yeah, and he interviewed last year too. But the problem is that he was, from my perspective, and this is just me personally, I feel that he was more qualified than some of the guys who were hired last year.
He was.
It's interesting. Probably a wider discussion, but it's interesting that the emphasis is always on assistant head coaches. Basically coordinators, offensive or defensive coordinators, to get a head coaching job, because those jobs are so different. Right. If you could be the greatest coordinator in the world, but you actually might be just hopeless at head coaching post, because it's really different. It's about organizing a team. It's about a lot of procedural stuff as opposed to the X's and O's and all the rest of it that you did as a coordinator. Now, that's not to suggest. Bieniemy absolutely needs to get a job, that's for sure. But I don't know the guy, and he may not be having the attributes to being a head coach. I don't know, and I take a guy like Saleh, who I really worry about. I wouldn't like if he was taking over my team, because he's a rah-rah guy, and I'm not sure that is really what a head coach needs to be in 2020. Well, it works in Seattle, but let's face it, Carroll is more than that, much more than that to his. If you take Carroll just a rah guy, that's I think that's doing him a disservice.
All right. Well, I would say just calling Robert Saleh a rah guy might be doing him a disservice.
No, it's not. I know, Jay.
Oh my gosh.
The New York Jets will be picking second. We had them at 30th in the preseason. They finish here at 31. Again, no news on their general manager or coach search. Miami will be picking third thanks to the Houston Texans. Let's, instead of talking about Miami, let's talk about Houston here. They hired a new general manager. It is Nick Caserio, who is from the New England Patriots. He is the new GM. I guess the Jack Easterby culture era has begun in Houston, and that's probably bad news for a lot of people, especially when you see your star, your leader of the team, your quarterback, write, "Some things never change, ... It's not good when J.J. Watt is clearly upset with what's happening in the front office, and now your quarterback is upset with what's happening in the front office. What is it about this that you don't get, Houston?
Jay, I'd like to ask that. Aside from the color scheme, are the Texans just going to snatch every person that they need as far as front office and coaching from the Patriots? I didn't realize you guys were a feeder school for the Houston franchise.
Apparently so, because my next concern is that their head coach comes from New England, and it's Josh McDaniels, whom no one has talked to, who no one has even asked to talk to at this particular point in time, and no one's even talking about. You want to talk about the surprise coaching hire? I would not be surprised to hear Josh McDaniels, new head coach of the Houston Texans.
For those of us who don't know, give us a little bit of the Nick Caserio vibe. What's he got going for him?
He worked under Bill Belichick to basically figure out what to pay the players. Essentially, he did all the paperwork for Belichick. Belichick is the GM of the New England Patriots, not Nick Caserio. Nick Caserio is there to take care of any of the administration work that's got to happen.
So, I mean, you know these two guys. So what do you expect from Caserio and the Easter Bunny?
I expect a lot of Bill O'Brien happening. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that Easterby is the reason why Bill O'Brien is fired, that would be another one that I would be like, I wouldn't be surprised if they just rehired Bill O'Brien. I don't know what's happening in Houston. I think this was a bad idea. As our super fan James has noted in the Slack, they hired somebody that wasn't even on the list of the firm that they hired to find a potential general manager for them. They've been after Caserio for the last 3 years. And that could be the only thing that I can think of that is why they even made this hire. But I don't think it's good news for Houston. I think it's bad news. The arrow is pointing way down.
James, our James, the Texan superfan, he's sitting, he's curled up in the fetal position in a darkened room with this news. I mean, for goodness sake, I thought they would have got rid of Jack Easterbunny at some point when the whole kind of thing fell down, but clearly not. He's in and he's there for good. He is a de facto chief executive.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. Yeah. And this was the guy that was the pastor on the New England Patriots.
But I was about to ask you if this was the pastor guy we talked about earlier this season.
Yeah, I mean, you could say on the one hand that he's in a good job because he has every single Houston Texan fan praying right now. So.
Atlanta is picking at number 4. This was a team that we had higher expectations for, as we had them at 17 in the preseason. They end up 26th in our current power rankings. The Bengals.
Well, hold on.
Real quick on the Falcons.
Yeah.
The reports I've seen down here, they are not interviewing Raheem Morris for that job.
He's already been interviewed.
He's been interviewed.
Has he?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, then I must have missed something. Then I apologize. My bad.
Yeah. Are they a team? Are they a team who are going to be ditching Matt Ryan? Is Matt Ryan going to be in the Patriots blue next year? See a guy
It all
leaving?
depends on who they bring in. It's going to depend on if the general managers come in and they want Matt Ryan and Julio Jones still on their team.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have to rebuild, right? If Atlanta needs to start over, those are two big chips, Julio Jones and Matt Ryan. You can get some.
No, they're not. But they're not worth anything. Julio Jones,
a couple of middle round draft picks.
Yeah, Julio Jones is a terrific player, but he's injured all the time. How many times has James sat here and told us the injury report when Julio Jones has not been on it? Probably never.
I mean, he's perpetually on it with a lower leg injury of some type, whether it's calf, ankle, or foot. He's on it all year. Like once he tweaks it, he's just there, and he's questionable every week. And pretty much around week 5, he's just, he's on the injury report as a non-participant in practice, but we know he's going to lace him up on Sunday.
Mm-hmm. How many games?
Matt Ryan is extremely affordable. His salary cap hit is not that bad. So, I mean,
I was about to say, the downside
from him
of that
by
contract.
maybe drafting someone, but they're going to keep Matt Ryan around. He's cheap and he's productive.
Well, that is the headline from this podcast. Monty declares Matt Ryan a Raider.
No. Monty's new quarterback is going to be what's his name? The guy from Tennessee that they got this year.
Mariota. Nah.
Yeah, that guy.
I would love to see.
All right. I waited long enough. I just popped the top off of this one. If we're going to go down this road, I'm going to.
You're welcome.
I'd love to see Matt Ryan in a Patriots uniform next year. I think he'd make a great fit. Former Boston College star, coming back home. Yeah,
yeah, but come on, Monty's plea for help there was so overpowering for me. It's got to be Ryan to the Raiders.
Julio and Matt are both under contract through 2023. So, I mean, Julio does get injured a lot, but I don't think either of those guys are going anywhere.
That's a long time still, isn't it? Yeah.
The Cincinnati Bengals are picking at 5. They were 32 in our preseason power rankings, as they should have been. They moved to 29 in our power rankings. So we almost nailed that one right on the nose, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Zach Taylor gets another year. That's good news. I quite like him, actually.
Well, I think the arrow is definitely pointing up in Cincinnati.
Yeah. Yeah, they just need some line help, both sides of the ball. I mean, what Carlos Dunlap forced his way out of Cincinnati earlier this season. Some other players that they pretty much told to go home and stay there who weren't happy with the direction of the team. But that's what happens when you change the culture of a team, and you kind of have to get rid of the 8 to 10-year veterans to get them out of there because, they're not happy that, it's being built around the younger guys. So they have to go. They serve their purpose for the 1 or 2 years to help some of those rookies and second-year players become, consummate professionals and at least qualify to do their job day in and day out. And it just becomes time for them to move on. So I don't think there are too many of those players left in Cincinnati. If they are, they'll probably be gone this offseason.
Yeah, AJ Green being the prime example, I guess.
He's a special case. I think he might be the exception to the rule. So here's my thing.
Like Geno Atkins, I think he was on IR.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another great player.
Atkins is on IR, so Atkins is probably gone. But here's my thing with AJ Green. So Burrow loved targeting AJ Green this season because I couldn't even tell you who the number 2 receiver is right now. If it was T. Higgins, awesome. But when Burrow went down and Finley became the starter, I think all the wide receivers pretty much disappeared. He was mostly just checking it down to tight ends and running backs. So wide receivers didn't get, that many targets.
Every back
Burrow,
I mean, no backup quarterback comes in and usually targets the wide receivers and throws deep. It's very rare.
Half the season, somewhere towards the end of the season, he should have been targeting Higgins and Green with some regularity, not still checking it to the tight ends and the running back. And plus, he's been in the league for several years. Finley's not some guy who they just drafted at the same time they drafted Burrow. He's got at least 3 or 4 years experience under his belt. And he's been with the franchise for a couple of seasons. So he should know this offense enough to know where the wide receiver is supposed to be at all times on the field. That's inexcusable.
Well, Brendan Allen played better than Ryan Finley. So And they both started 5 games apiece.
Huh.
Or no, they both played in 5 games apiece.
Yeah, I was going to say Burrow played more than that. So yeah.
Burrow played in 10.
Yeah.
And yes, as if you didn't hear Monty, Tyler Boyd was their number 2 receiver. T. Higgins was their number 1. AJ Green finished 3rd. Almost.
Okay.
Auden Tate was injured. Only played 9 games.
I was going to say he had a promising end of last season, the previous season, didn't he? So yeah, injuries.
One of the disappointments for us in regards to rankings, picking 6th, the Philadelphia Eagles. They were 12th preseason. They finished 28th. If you've missed James' half-hour-long rant, you can go and check that out on the Tuesday podcast, the NFL Sound Up Week 17 recap.
The Giants fans can kick rocks.
I mean, Jay, you say they're disappointed. For me, the Eagles exceeded expectations.
Neil, please elaborate.
Well, I haven't seen a team. I mean, at the start of the season, I thought they were by far and away the best team in that division by a distance. And it turns out they were the worst team in the division by a distance. So, and I know you've had a serious injury issues, but you've also had a lot of players who just have not performed this year.
Carson Wentz,
Ertz, even Cox until later in the season didn't start off well. Yeah, like you said on the Tuesday podcast, Peters is kind of gone this year finally, and I thought I just thought your defense did not have that nasty edge that it's had for a number of years.
Well, that's what happens when you shortchange Malcolm Jenkins and he leaves, and then you want Jalen Mills to play safety in his place.
And I also think, James, you're one of the teams who probably suffered from a lack of crowd at your games, where I think you were a very hostile crowd, one of the very few hostile crowds in the NFL, and I think that does you proud at home.
What was it? The first or second home game this season, they pumped in booing noise when we were losing. So, I mean, I it felt like the crowd was there when I heard all the boos, from the stadium speakers.
It's the feel of a fresh battery whacking you on the head that you can never replicate that, really.
Oh man. They tried.
This is probably most disappointing for Detroit Lions fans who picked 7th because we had them at 24 in our preseason. They finished the season at 30th, so the third worst team in the NFL, and they're picking 7th. That's not good for a team that needs a lot. That team's got a lot of work.
Well, I'm not sure. I think it's not. I don't think they're as bad as you say. I think they had the influence of another failure from the withered Belichick twig.
Maybe Matt Patricia will end up the head coach of the Houston Texans. There you go.
Oh my gosh! Why are you doing this to James?
Because it's fun.
James, if you're listening, please turn off this podcast.
Yeah. Wow.
It's fun.
Imagine that.
That's horrible, man. That is so wrong.
Matthew Stafford is rumored to be another one of those veteran quarterbacks that's going to be available.
Yeah. Do you know, Jay, the moment we knew that guy was not going to make it as a head coach was that moment in the press conference when he told the reporter to sit up. That was the moment we knew, because that is not a head coach for you right there.
Listen, some people are rocket scientists and others are just rocket scientists.
Yeah, and then some people are just complete twats, and he's one of them.
Stafford has a very affordable contract through 2023, but I believe that the smooth sounds of Kenny Golladay will be hitting the open market this off season. So get your checkbooks ready.
Yeah, he's going to get paid, isn't he?
Also, I need teams to stop plucking the Belichick tree for coaches. It's not working.
It's a twig. It's not a tree.
It's working for Miami just fine.
Tennessee
because he's not trying to reinvent the wheel, and there's smart people around him. It doesn't seem to be smart people around these other guys.
I don't think you can say that the Tennessee guy comes from the Belichick twig.
I count him as a Belichick.
No.
No, he wasn't a coach under Belichick. He was a player.
Creative play caller from college like Chip Kelly. That works every time.
Whoa, Monty. I know you're drinking, but no cursing.
Hey, you brought up the quarterback changes in Las Vegas, so you reap what you sow.
Wow, well done, Monty.
By the way, if we're not going to count variable under Belichick's tree, that means he's Urban Myers.
Wow.
Yeah, now all of a sudden you want to replant Vrabel. Thank you. Carolina is picking at number 8. They finished the season at 23 in our power rankings. They started the season at 29.
Gotta be.
I'd say the arrow's up on Carolina.
Yep, definitely got to be in the quarterback market this year, haven't they?
Yeah, they
quarterback
were
market?
looking at Haskins after he got cut.
Haskins is not an upgrade to Teddy Two Gloves.
No, they've got to get
not, but he could be an upgraded backup.
Yeah, they're a quarterback away from being a pretty decent team, I think.
Remember when Christian McCaffrey was coming out of college and everyone said he was too small for the NFL? Then he came in, had an incredible year, bulked up using some, let's say, vitamins. Now his small frame, he's starting to get banged up a little bit. Is this the beginning of the end for Mr. McCaffrey, or is this a one-off where he's going to be able to power through?
How many games did he play this year, Monty?
I think
not
4
enough.
or 5.
Did he play that many? I thought he played
that's
like
probably
2.
stretching it. It may be 3.
Because I remember he got too much time stretching it.
Yeah, he got hurt in week 2.
Taking way too long.
He came back for a game, and then he missed the rest of the season.
I have Christian McCaffrey at 3 games.
Yeah, I was going to say it was hardly anything at all, yeah. Oof, just after he got paid as well, is that right?
Yeah, he got paid last year.
Very talented player.
But, I mean, he was going to get paid with that 1,000 season. So
yeah, I mean, Monty's right. He's a very talented player, for sure.
I just don't know if he's ever going to play a 16-game season again, you know?
Yeah, that makes...
Well, they've got a great backup in Mike Davis, so, nice insurance policy to have. He really showed a lot of what he can do for that franchise, in the absence of McCaffrey.
Yeah, but he's not great.
But
no,
you bring up good points here, though. If he's not, maybe he's not meant to be an every down back, not the feature back, right? But now you have Mike Davis, who did well in his season, replacing McCaffrey. Maybe it's more of a running back by committee with a lot more McCaffrey.
No, I don't think that really suits a player of McCaffrey's size and stature, because he's a guy who does a lot of his work by the fact that you don't know whether they're going to run the ball or pass the ball on that play when he's in. When you bring him in as a sort of in a situation where it's 90% chance they're going to throw the ball, then that changes his game completely, I think, Jay.
But then you can run it with him. Because he does offer that.
But then but then like Monty said, you're only going to get a few games from him because he's doubtful to hold up.
You're not running him all the time. I don't know. There might be something there. Maybe it's not Mike Davis you pair him up.
Maybe they bring him up. Well, look, he and Alvin Kamara have the same tenure. And look at what the Saints did with Alvin Kamara. They didn't run him every down, or have him in on every play. They pretty much have him on a pitch count. And maybe that's probably what Carolina should have did with McCaffrey. Keep him on a pitch count, X number of plays or touches per game. And when he hits that, just pull him.
Yeah, but your problem there is that's fine until you pay him. And then you're paying a running back so much money, you've got to get him out there and get the ball in his hands.
Now that you've paid him, it's a little too late. But I'm saying, before we got to this point,
yeah, it's fair.
They probably should have done that.
Agreed, yeah.
The 9th pick is going to the Denver Broncos, who fall from 19 in our preseason to 27.
Hold on, Jay. Just to go back to Carolina, I did proffer that Carolina will be in the quarterback market. Do you agree with that? Do you think they'll go with Teddy again next year?
I think they would. I don't think they're active in the quarterback market, but I think if the right quarterback falls in their laps, they're not going to pass. They're not going to pass up on it, much like the Patriots did with Cam Newton, right? Nobody wanted Cam Newton. They got Cam Newton for $1 million. I mean, how can you pass that up?
Easily,
you really can't.
Hindsight being 2020, you should have passed it, but right,
and played Stidham instead.
Right. The Denver Broncos, as I said, 19, now 27 in our power rankings. John Elway has, he did the right thing. He stepped down from his position.
Because they said he's been elevated.
Well, you're right. I should say he stepped up from general manager. He's now the president of football operations, and Denver is looking for a general manager.
He's been sort of elevated in a sort of downwards way.
It's just, I don't know. I don't know if that's good or bad for Denver. Maybe having another voice works, but that usually doesn't bode well for the guy that brings in. He's usually a yes man.
But the problem,
Monty, they're in your division. Thoughts?
Well, I mean, Monty, let's face it. Who wants to be the guy who gets rid of John Elway from Denver? That is some call to make.
Oh, he's not going anywhere.
No.
I mean, I think he just gave him a little insurance policy so that when he gets these terrible quarterbacks that don't work out, he can blame the GM, fire them, and move on when he's really the one who's doing it.
That's right, yeah.
He's got to keep his Denver records. He wants to be the all-time greatest Denver quarterback no matter what. He's going to keep bringing it in.
That's right.
Dallas, one of the bigger disappointments on the season, they were 8th in our power rankings in the preseason. They end up in 24th spot, and it's the Dak Prescott question all over again.
Hey, look, I know he got hurt this year, but we saw what the quarterback play behind him looked. And look, that is a loaded offense. And Andy Dalton's by no way setting the world on fire, but we all agreed in the offseason he is a competent and capable quarterback. And for him to play the way he did this year was disgusting. If he had played just a tad bit better, hell, if he played anywhere like Ryan Tannehill played for the Titans last season, Dallas would have won his division with at least a 9-7 record.
We're talking about Dallas, not Carson Wentz.
I understand, but look.
When are you Americans going to learn? I mean, McCarthyism, it's not the greatest thing.
Hey, look, my team didn't hire him.
I think Dak's going to get paid. I think that offense is going to be awesome. And they get some improvement on the defense. I mean, McCarthyism or not, they'll be competitive, knocking on the door for a wild card.
Yeah, but the other issue there this season was Ezekiel Elliott and his fumbling.
Well, that can be fixed, right?
Well,
it's not something that he showed a penchant for before this year.
And they have to rebuild that offensive line because they moved their best offensive lineman from guard to tackle by the end of the season.
I mean, for a start, you illiterate Americans, it's penchant. And secondly, with Zeke Elliott, it's more than the fumbling, Jay. I think we're witnessing the start of the time when you start saying, start asking, is Zeke Elliott done? Because he is tipped over that hill for the running back where they start to go downhill. I think he'll go downhill fast. I think the fumbling was a sign that he was just trying too hard to get things going.
It was a sign of him rubbing his new tattoo on his belly. That's why he fumbled the ball so much.
Dallas tapped out as soon as Dak got hurt and the wind was out of their sails. They gave up and were ready for the offseason back in October. So let's hold off on writing that.
The offensive line is now a mess. The defense is horrendous. They have massive work to do defensively. James, you'll know yourself, that offensive line, which was superb for years, is really taking a downward spiral.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lucky for
and
them,
you mentioned
they
defense. Did they fire Greg Nolan or not? I can't remember.
I don't know.
No, not yet. No, Monty. Sorry, I didn't catch what you said. Sorry.
I said lucky for the Cowboys, they play in the NFC East, so they're not out of it.
Hey, there's a new powerhouse in the East.
Oh my gosh, is that what you're calling them?
Not the New York Giants, who are right there picking at number 11, and they went from 28th in the power rankings to 22. I don't know why they rose in the power rankings. Frankly, the Giants, I don't see the arrow pointing up for New York.
It was because if we didn't put them up in the rankings, Giants fans will just start crying again. They've all got something to cry about, haven't they?
I think we had to make room to put people at the bottom of the power ranks.
Mm-hmm.
What's your guys' feeling on Daniel Jones? Is he an NFL quarterback or an NFL backup?
He's an NFL quarterback in the sense that he'll play well enough to keep his job. Look, this guy is Eli Manning 2.0, and Manning never set the world on fire. Let's be real.
I don't think he's even as good as that. I think he's.
Okay,
I think
first of all, Manning wasn't good.
Yeah,
That's my point.
Yeah, okay. I think he's a very low level for me anyway, Monty. I think he's a very low level starter. I think, like James said, he can probably get away with playing the position for a number of years with lots of talent around him, like Barkley and so. But he's not a guy who's going to elevate guys on the team. What's the term you guys have? He's a trailer, not a truck.
I've never heard that term, but I'll take your word for it.
A lot of turnovers from that kid.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jay, a truck is the one that's pulling the trailer and
I get
forward.
it.
Yeah, okay.
I understood.
If it wasn't for Carson Wentz, Jones would have led the league in turnovers.
Yeah. Would you take Jones in New England, for example, Jay? I mean, what you've seen of him?
No, but he's an upgrade to anything that we have currently. So,
but I think of Monty's team, I don't think he would beat out Carr. I don't think he would beat out Mariota for the backup role. I don't think.
Yeah, we'll get to Las Vegas in a moment. I mean, seriously,
no comment.
The team that was probably the most disappointing, according to the rankings.
No.
Picking 12th. They were ranked 5th in our preseason power rankings. They finished 20th, and that's the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, injury bug got them.
Another team in need of a quarterback.
Yeah, their injury list this year looked like the Washington team from the past 3 years. Like every week, 10 names went up on the list. So I think that's their biggest issue, is just getting healthy bodies on that squad. Because at the end of the season, when you're losing your 2 top stud wide receivers, and Samuel and Ayuk, then that hurt a lot down the stretch. And they need to solidify the backup quarterback role. If Garoppolo's going to be the starter, they need better. They need an upgraded backup QB, because between Beathard and whoever else is back there, it was horrible. Nick Mullins.
Yeah. Is Shanahan the best coach in the NFL?
No.
All right,
far off.
I'm going to tell you the players that played in all 16 games for the San Francisco 49ers.
This should be a short list.
Kyle Juszczyk, Jerick McKinnon, Ross Dwelly.
These sound like linemen.
That's it for offense. I didn't do the offensive linemen, but I know that they had some injuries on the offensive line too. So on the defensive side, Fred Warner. So that's good. Tarvarius Moore, Eric Armstead, Kerry Hyder Jr., Marcel Harris, Aziz Al-Shahir, and let's see here, Mitch Wishnowsky, the punter.
You're delving into special teams now. You want to put Robbie Gould on there too while you're at it?
Well, that's because I'm going through tackles. I'm going through tackles here on special teams. Mike McClinchy played all 16 games, the offensive tackle. So there you go.
Right tackle. Yeah.
Not even their place kicker, Robbie Gould, only played in 15 games. So they had injuries in all forms of the game.
Who's the long snapper? I'm pretty sure he played all 16.
I'm sure he did. I don't know. I don't have that up here. But yeah, I mean, the San Francisco, Arizona XFLers had a lot going against them this year, and I mean, they got to overcome the injury bug, and I don't know necessarily how you do that magically.
So do you guys not rate Shanahan then? Because I love Shanahan. I'd love him as my head coach.
Oh no,
he's a good coach. He's a good head coach. But Pot's question was, is he the best coach in the league? The answer is no.
I didn't ask that question. That was Neil that asked it.
I think it was Monty that asked that.
Whoever it was, wasn't me. He's a good coach. I wouldn't mind having him, but I already have the best coach in the league, so it doesn't matter. The Los Angeles Chargers, you want to talk about a spot that we nailed? Started the season at 21st on our power rankings, finished the season 21st in our power rankings. Good job, super fans. I mean, the arrow's got to be pointing up for these guys. You want to talk
about
silence
for Anthony Lynn?
Well, that's true. You want to talk about a team where the arrow's pointing up? I think the Chargers have got that arrow.
Does Eric Bieniemy want to live in Los Angeles or Houston?
Less taxes in Houston.
Oof.
As of right now, though, let's just say that Watt comes back to Houston. Who has the better roster?
The Chargers still do.
Okay.
Chargers. But Houston has a better quarterback.
Yep, correct.
Do they, though?
Obviously. Yes, they do.
Yes.
I don't know. That was his rookie season.
Yeah,
So?
I totally understand.
It's the
but
best rookie season ever in the history of the NFL.
Whoopsie freaking do. And
Yeah, that
Watson led the
means
league in
he's going to
passing.
improve.
Hold
That
up.
means
No, it
he has
doesn't. No,
Watson
that's
led the league
not
in
true.
passing yards, what everyone considers a trash receiving corps.
Jay, there's as much chance of a player, a quarterback improving in the rookie following the rookie season as there is not improving in the from the rookie season. It's no real qualifier there. He had a great season, terrific, one of the best, if not the best, rookie quarterback season of all time. Let's not take anything away from him. He's looked outstanding, brilliant, and we'd all love him on our team. But no. You've got to play more games than that before you can be said to be ahead of somebody like Watson. Watson has been there. He's done it. Defenses of taking away what he does well, and he's still played brilliantly. And that's the key to any quarterback. Let's see how Herbert does when he's got coaches have got a year's worth of tape on him, and he can force him to do the things he's not so good at. That's when we'll see if he's great.
No one's saying the rookie is bad. He has a great
absolutely
year.
not.
We're just saying that Watson is elite. He's top of the heap. I mean, come on, Pod.
Yeah, quite right.
And I'm saying, I was posing the question. I posed it as a question, but I'm not so certain that Watson will be that much better than Herbert at the end of their careers.
Oh,
okay.
That's a different question. You changed the question.
Right. And it's still going to be Watson over Herbert at the end of their careers.
That's what Republicans do.
Oh no! Stop it with that.
Neil, I'm all out of beer. You can't go down this path.
Wait, Monty, you're out of beer. How did that happen?
No, I mean I'm not drinking beer. I'm working diligently from home.
All right. The Minnesota Vikings are pitching 14th. They fall from 10th in our preseason power rankings to finish the season at 18. I mean, here's the shots at Kirk Cousins.
Oh.
Well, no. So I'm going to say this, and it's not a shot at Kirk Cousins. Surprisingly, when they figured out how to run this offense, Cousins played excellent, but the defense failed them because they let go a lot of veterans early in the season. They just were cutting people left and right, and were, trying on the fly to coach up a bunch of, young but talented players on a defense who just pretty much took the entire season to round into form to make this team as balanced as it could be. They're still a few pieces away from contending from their own division, but I mean, they're on the cusp. They they have a phenomenal running game. They just need to keep sticking with that. They definitely have dynamic playmakers on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Justin Jefferson, who I'm still crying over, and I probably will until his career is over because he should have been wearing the Eagles jersey this year. My pick for Rookie of the Year, honestly, over Herbert, but we all know how that's going to play out.
Is that just self-harm or what?
Oh, gosh.
Easily the worst defense that Zimmer has ever had. They were up against it with the salary cap. I expect them to focus on that in the offseason. Yep. They've got the running back. They've got talent. They'll be in the mix again.
Yeah.
The New England Patriots are at picking 15th in the draft.
Everybody take 5. Pod's going to pontificate.
They started at 13th in the preseason. They finished at 19th. I said all I needed to say about New England last week.
Oh, one last thing I want to throw out there. Gary Kubiak retired for the
That's
Vikings.
right.
So it'll be interesting to see if they bring in somebody
who
just
new OC.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the new OC has to remember, run first, pass later.
Well, Zimmer will remind him of that. Didn't that was the problem with who they had before Kubiak?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the former Eagles quarterback coach who didn't want to run the football. And that's why he got fired.
All right, so New England's at 15.
Can I ask you a question about New England?
You most certainly can.
Do you think, you know this kind of like this Patriot way, this sort of like grumpy, sour, funless life that Belichick demands of each team? Do you think that's easier? Do you think that's easier to do when you're winning than when you're losing? Because I bet when you're losing, that must really piss you off, no?
No, I got to imagine it's not doing you any favors. That's for sure. Listen, but if you're losing and you're not focused on football, then what the hell are you doing? To me,
you at some point you probably feel like when he says to you, "Yeah, do your job," you probably feel like saying to him, "You do your effing job." No?
I mean, listen, my whole thing with New England was that they didn't rip the Band-Aid off this past year. They delayed the rebuild by a full year. So we're a year further away from being a good team again. This team has nobody to build around other than the running backs. The running backs, I think, are pretty solid. They got a great offensive line, but they're probably going to lose 2, maybe 3 pieces of the offensive line this offseason.
Didn't they draft the new Gronk and Aaron Hernandez tight end duo this year?
Yeah.
You mean those rookies who never played?
That's another problem, is they still haven't figured out the tight end thing, and they don't have any wide receivers. And their number 1 wide receiver, who got hurt and missed most of the year, is probably also not going to be on the team next season.
So what about? I mean, the elephant in the room there is, of course, you mentioned it earlier. Belichick is the GM, but let's be honest, Jay. And I'm not taking shots at New England or anything, but the drafting from this team in the last few years has been absolutely horrendous.
Well, it has and it hasn't, right?
How many Pro Bowlers have you drafted in the last 5 years?
Yes, right. But that's why I'm saying it has and it hasn't, because
it hasn't.
Okay. Well, they drafted Kyle Duggar this past season, who's pretty good and is showing a lot of promise at the safety position.
Every team has those guys. Every team has.
Right. Every team has a guy that you can point to, and every team has plenty of guys that you can point to that said that's horrendous. The problem is really the first round, right? Because the Patriots haven't had a good first round draft choice in a number of years, and that's what's hurt them the most.
They always
and then
first round
getting them taken away from
picks.
Well, they either trade them away or they get them taken away from them in some sort of scandal. So
I don't know. Everyone wants to talk about the offense, but when the defense all opted out of the season, I mean, that was that's what Belichick is going to do. Before Brady became Brady, he had a good defense. He won by a field goal. That's going to be what they're going to do until they start getting some playmakers. And I have no doubt that once the defense comes back, they're going to bring in some people, teach them how to do one specific job, and their defense will keep them in every single game. And then they just got to find a Hall of Fame kicker.
But if you look, Monty, the last 7 first-round draft choices since 2014, Dominic Easley, Malcolm Brown, Isaiah Wynn, Sony Michel, and Keel Harry.
Yeah. Problem solved. You'll just trade out of the first round, get a few more third-rounders, and draft some studs.
But they have had a penchant for drafting defensive backs in the second and third rounds over recent years, and they really haven't panned out that well. I mean, I just think overall
what defensive backs haven't panned out well?
Right. Well, I'll have to go into the second round of the draft for New England. So you guys carry on talking while I do this research for you.
Because honestly, the secondary has been the strength of the team and the defense.
It is, but
for this
you didn't draft Gilmore.
No,
That's
we didn't
true.
draft Gilmore. And I suppose technically they didn't draft J.C. Jackson either.
Right.
Or one of the Comorty twins.
This is going well for you so far.
They did draft Jonathan Jones, who's probably one of the best slot corners in the league. And like I just mentioned, they drafted Kyle Duggar.
So Patrick Chung, who should come back, if he stops sniffing the white stuff.
No, that's a whole. I don't think Patrick Chung's coming back, and frankly, they don't need him. Trust me, there's not a lot of things that you can look at New England and go, "Oh, the arrow's pointing up," because it's really not.
No,
but a lot will depend on what they do.
Sideways tilting down.
It all depends on what quarterback they end up picking up.
Yeah, that's why I said it's sideways tilting down. because depending on the quarterback, because I don't think a quarterback is going to get the arrow pointing up for the squad. Like you said, there's a lot this team needs.
And they have a lot of cap space, and they do have guys that opted out that could improve this team.
But do all those guys come back? Remember the situations of why those guys opted out. Some of them just had kids. Some of them are taking care of older family members. It's not a slam dunk. They all come back.
All right. Okay, I'm ready for you now. I'll go with Joanne Williams, second-round pick, 2019.
Disappointment. Yeah,
Duke Dawson, second-round pick, 2018, cornerback.
Yeah.
Cyrus Jones, 2016, cornerback.
Yeah.
Jordan Richards, safety, 2015, second-round pick.
Yeah, he's no longer on the team. Is he still with the Raiders?
No, I don't know. I'm just looking at your draft history here. I'm not your PA, so you should get somebody else to do it. Tavon Wilson, 2012. A lot of second-round picks there, defensive backs that didn't pan out. I do agree. Your defensive backfield has been pretty good, but they're not because you've drafted them high. Anyway,
no.
But what are you going to do, Jay? You can only do so much in an off season. What are you going to do this off season to make the Patriots into a team that can challenge the Bills or even challenge Miami for second place in that division? What are the things you can do this year?
We're not going to challenge the Bills, so let's get that one right out. We're going to try and retain that. Well, this is what I would like to see, and I don't think is going to happen. I would like to retain as much of the offensive line that I possibly can. I want to keep Joe Thuney. I want to keep David Andrews. I want to keep Shaq Mason to go along with those rookies that we drafted in Michael Onwenu, who ended up being a all rookie first team offensive tackle, Justin Herron, who they played towards the end of the season, who's got some promise as well on that offensive line. They've got the running backs to play off of. They need a quarterback that can do the dink and dunk game. And that's why, again, I look at your one-legged quarterback, Neil, and say, boy, I would really like to have him for a year or two. Because he's sort of the perfect bridge quarterback, right? Yeah. Bring in Alex Smith to just not lose a game, and then get somebody and develop them.
I get that, Jay, but I also know that our franchises are very different because your franchise is a franchise that has expectations of winning. Washington's not quite like that, so we can get away with a bridge quarterback a bit easier. How long do the fans and the organization, how long do they accept losing? I mean, these are major questions because of the fabulous success that you've had.
By the way, that also means you convinced Dante Hightower to come back off the opt-out list. I don't care about Patrick Chung and really any of the other opt-outs. There's no one that really stands out to me right now that I think we really need. But how many? I mean, you're right. This is a business of what have you done for me lately? But I still think the man has six rings that he can point to and be like, what the hell more do you want from me? You don't get this. You don't get this anywhere else.
I get that, Jay, but we all know the pressure that will come when you know what it's like when you're so successful, the press can't touch you almost. But as soon as you do something wrong, they're all over you like a rash. And you do wonder, how long will New England accept that, and what can Belichick do to bring even if it's just short-term instant success to the team as quarterback? Is it quarterback or is it?
It's quarterback. But listen, we spent more time on the Patriots than I expected. I did not expect to talk about the Patriots this much, but there was already whispers from some of the media members that, Belichick, the game is past Belichick by. I do think he's got one more year. He's got one more bye year. Let's put it that way. So next year, if at the end, I don't think anyone expects this team to make a major comeback and end up in the playoffs next season. But if they do enough where there are signs of hope, where the arrow is pointed up for sure, right? If you have like a Bengals season and you know that the arrow is pointed up and that the next season is going to be much better.
But you guys are 8-8 this year.
No, we didn't.
You guys are insane. Bill Belichick and the owner are not going to fire Bill Belichick after 10 bad seasons. He won the man 6 rings. Belichick's coaching as long as he wants to coach. That's it.
No, but how long does he have until the press is really pushing him? That's I might agree with you, Monty. Who cares? The fans will care because the fans.
Oh, come on!
The fans will turn on Belichick just as quickly if the press starts turning on him.
Well, I tell you,
they
James,
do know they're due for a nice little lull period before.
No. You're sorry, James. You're not reading the psyche of football fans. When you've had 20 years of unparalleled success and you've been at the top of your game that's 20 years. Some fans won't remember New England not being the best team in the league.
Never knew. My son has never known the Patriots to be bad.
And when that starts to go bad, a couple of losing seasons, and they will be saying, "Yeah, I mean that's just not how fans live." You know, they are very much about what you did for me lately, and that's why I think this season is off season is so massive for the Patriots, because if they don't get back to some semblance of challenging in that division, I think it will be Belichick's last season. I think he will be removed.
It won't be his last season. Next year won't be his last season. But
if they go 7-9 next year, he's out.
No. If they go let's put it this way: if they go 7-9 next year and Cam Newton is still the quarterback, then he's out.
Well,
Neil, the owner is not Dan Snyder. This is a different ownership.
It's nothing to do with ownership. I don't think it has a lot to do with ownership in this particular. Because of the 20 years of success, I think there's a different scenario here.
Here's the other thing:
this
ownership also
pushed. The Boston Globe are going to run Bill Belichick out of town. Come on.
Wait a second. With the timeout, this ownership, no one knows this team and the ownership better than I. This ownership did run Bill Parcells out of town when they were doing great. They were in a Super Bowl. They were in a Super Bowl, and the ownership pushed him out.
Because they wanted to make all the decisions.
Being nice to people.
Right. They wanted Parcells to coach and not be involved in any of the decision making as far as the players, and he wasn't having that.
And Parcells was right, because the front office guys were terrible, and then Pete Carroll came in and tried to destroy my beloved franchise. And thank the gods that Bill Belichick came. All of that is 100% true, and I do think that there's a large number of the fan base that. You're right, Monty. He's won 6 Super Bowls in 20 years. No one else has done it. Good luck trying to find the next Bill Belichick. But
Parcells one-year owner Robert Kraft 0 Super Bowls. He did not line his bank account with millions and millions of dollars. Belichick is there as long as he wants to be there.
No, I'm in agreement with you on that. I'm not saying you're wrong.
I think that was a case 20 years ago.
There is still a what have you done for me lately? There is still a what have you done for me lately? You can't have 10. You can't have a 10-year drought.
I wouldn't be surprised if they handed the reins over to that hideous kid with the mullet that Belichick gave a job as a defensive coordinator. Like you're stuck with the Belichicks until they don't want to be there anymore. We can move on from Patriots today.
Thank you. Arizona is picking 16th, which is where they were ranked by us. We ranked them at 16. They preseason was 20. They ended in 16th. Did I read in our Slack group, our whispers that Cliff Kingsbury should be fired?
Yeah, I asked Dr. Jones. I was listening to a fantasy show, and they were talking about how Kingsbury is not the right coach for the job, which kind of surprised me because I thought that his first year he kind of overperformed. This year they're right about where we have them expected them to be, and people just think that they're not impressed with his play calling. I think he's like calling the wrong plays. He's not aggressive, and I think a little bit it's masked because Kyler Murray is so fast, and when the play breaks down, he can run and convert third downs into first downs. And obviously, DeAndre Hopkins, Texas James, is amazing. So I don't know. Maybe that's the whispers around the camp. I was a little surprised to hear it. And Dr. Jones actually thought maybe it was time. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, Monty, let me speak to that coaching part because there were 2 games this year, and I talked about them on our Tuesday podcast, where they had 4th and 1, and Kingsbury decided to opt for a field goal. And in one game, they lost in overtime, and another game, the kicker missed the field goal. And it was more than enough time left on the clock. It wasn't like there were seconds left. It was like a little over a minute left at each point where he decided to go for these field goals, and it blew up in his face. And I'm like, you have Kyler Murray, You're supposed to be this genius play caller. It's 4th and 1 on the opponent's 40 or closer. Why are you not putting the ball in Murray's hand to run some? If any team should run a gadget play to free up Murray or a running back in some type of reverse action, it should be this team.
James, you're over. I mean, you're overdoing it there. I can simplify it for you. It's quite simple. Everybody saw his house in the draft process, and half the people hate him because anything he does wrong, they'll pick it up because they saw that and they thought, I want that life and I can't have it, and I'm going to get rid of this guy.
Have you seen my
Murray
house?
did pass for almost 4,000 yards.
Other?
So,
go ahead and fire me. Go ahead. I still have the life.
Exactly, yeah. So
what's next for Larry Fitzgerald?
I think the booth. I think we're going to see
the Hall of Fame.
Larry Fitzgerald in the booth.
All right.
Is he a booth guy, do you think? Is he? He comes across as a sort of quietly spoken, gentle sort of guy. I'm not sure that's the sort of booth material, is it?
Yeah. I think he would be great in the booth. I think he's got a high football IQ. I think he could break down the game in a very Tony Romo kind of way. I think Larry Fitzgerald would be awesome. Color guy.
Yeah, but let's not mess around here. To be in the booth, you've got to also have an ego the size of New England. So he's.
Oh God!
I'm not sure.
Aqib Talib. We need more Aqib Talib
exactly.
in the booth.
Oh my God! Aqib Talib was hilarious.
That's why I'm not sure it's Fitzgerald's game. I think he's a different kind of guy, isn't he? Very nice kind of guy.
Well, then maybe we see him on ESPN as just an analyst on.
Maybe
TV shows.
Great ambassador for the sport, no?
Yeah, 100%. And the things that he's done for the community, I think there's no way we don't see Larry Fitzgerald somehow around the game. Even if he's no longer playing.
His father's in the media, isn't he? Is his father a reporter or something, or a journalist? Or
Minnesota.
Yeah. So maybe, who knows? These old aging wide receivers who are greats, they usually go to Las Vegas, don't they? Raiders guys through and through.
Well, huge fan of Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah, I'd have him on my team.
Of the Raiders, they are picking at 17, which is where we had them ranked. 17. Preseason, we had them at 23. So Las Vegas, Monty.
Very disappointing that the defense couldn't do anything this year. Firing your defensive coordinator or any coach really in the middle of the season is a huge failure. So I think it'll be interesting to see who they bring in to rebuild that defense. I know Whiskey, our son of bum, Wade Phillips, is openly advocating for the job on Twitter. I'm kind of rooting for Raheem Morris myself with the Tampa Bay ties with Chucky. I think Gus Bradley's been in there to interview. The dark horse candidate that I'm hearing about is the linebacker coach out of the Los Angeles Rams, Joe Barry. But whatever they do, they were 8-8. There's distinctly 3 last-second plays where the defense just totally blew their assignment and lost the game. The Raiders could be right in the mix with a historically bad defense. If they could get that defense just middle of the road, pretty much the same thing I said last offseason. They just got to get some defensive players in there. Sign Leonard Williams, have Mayock move up and down the draft board to get some defensive playmakers. We just need something.
Is it pass rush? Is it pass rush you need to?
Well, they got more sacks than Tennessee Titans, so I don't know if that says anything.
So did I.
But the pass rush is pretty bad. I mean, everyone had injuries this year, and the Raiders are no exception. They're signing people off the street, but they brought in Malik Collins to kind of shore up the middle of the defensive line, and that didn't work out. Corey Littleton had a pretty bad year, self-admittedly on a lot of interviews. He needs to take a step forward. But Max Crosby is a nice ancillary piece, but he's not a playmaker. You're not gonna game plan around Max Crosby. You know what I mean? So they need something. But the offense put up a lot of points. Probably, Darren Waller's obviously a stud. I think they're okay on that side of the ball. Ironically, going in this offseason, a lot of things I've been reading. James, you'll love this. Do the Raiders want to pay Nelson Aguilar market value for the year that he had? I don't know.
No. And by the way, the year that he had, yes, he put 8 touchdowns on the board, but only 48 catches on 82 targets and 896 yards. I'm not saying that sounds like a Nelson Aguilar year, but that doesn't sound like a number 1 wide receiver to me.
No, it's not.
I think they drafted young Mr. Henry Ruggs to play that position. So if Nelson wants to test the free agent markets, I mean, good luck to him. I think he had a great year, or he had a good year. Let's not say great, but I mean, I'd rather they spend that money on something else.
It was definitely great for him. Well, Monty, let me ask you this. We made a big deal when Chucky came back to the organization, signed that nice little 10-year, $100 million deal. How many more seasons can the Raiders keep playing like this? Because we keep expecting them to get better every year. And this year they were supposed to take a leap and at least compete for the division, which, we thought they were doing when they won the first matchup with the Chiefs and then pretty much imploded from there on out. How many more seasons like this can the Raiders go letting Chucky stay on as head coach?
Well, 7. I think is the answer.
He's got a losing record. Since he's been back, he has a losing record coaching this team.
There's a website, James. You go to isgrudengonyet.com, I think. And
my God.
Running tally of how much money. Technically, the Raiders have improved. His first year, I think they were 4 wins, 7 wins, and this year they're up.
Right, that was when he traded Khalil Mack and couldn't find a pass rush.
Problem for John Gruden is he probably waited a year too long to fire his friend Paul Gunther. They said his defense was overly complicated and he wasn't a good teacher. So you bring in all these young kids and he's not able to teach them to get into position where they need to be. So it'll be interesting to see who that they hire, right? So he's already given interviews that he wants to keep Marinelli on the defensive line from their Tampa days. Marinelli's son-in-law is this Chris Richard, who is a coach of the Dallas Cowboys. A lot of people think he's on the outside looking in for a defensive coordinator. If that happens, that's terrible, right? You need to bring in someone who's going to improve the defense, not someone that you're comfortable working with at 3 a.m.
But you see, Monty,
look, first of all, Monty, as far as Chris Richard goes, we saw him first.
Yeah, but you've touched upon an important thing there. I'm not sure Gruden wants coordinators in there who are young and pushing for head coaching posts.
I think Gruden and Raheem Morris have a pretty good relationship, and he openly advocating that Raheem Morris should get a coaching job. So if he doesn't land a job this cycle, he'll be more than happy to let him come in for a year or two and take that next step.
Well, maybe. Yeah.
All right.
Of course, the elephant in the room here, of course, is quarterback. And
what's the elephant?
That's
Derek Carr had a great season, 67% completion percentage.
How about
300 yards passing?
Neil, can I meet you halfway?
9 interceptions. What is wrong? Why are you guys so against Derek Carr? I will tell you right now. I will take Derek Carr in a second.
Neil, can I meet you halfway? How about this? Derek Carr is, let's say he's the 12th best quarterback in the league. He's got a pretty reasonable contract in this age of quarterbacks. If the Raiders could move him for some draft capital or a star defensive player, by all means. I think every position, every coach, if you can improve, then you should take that deal. But I don't think the Raiders picking at 17. The Raiders at 17 are not going to be able to find a quarterback. And the thing that you guys don't see when you're bashing Derek Carr is what Gruden loves is his pre-snap stuff. If you listen to any of those games, he's out there calling all the stuff and getting them into the right play that Gruden wants them to be in. And he's not going to waste 3 years of his $100 million contract teaching a rookie how to do that. So if they can trade him for some draft picks, sure. If they get a Khalil Mack type deal, great, no problem.
But then he does
Monty, hold on, wait, Neil, hold on. Monty, my issue isn't with Derek Carr. My issue is with the rate that they run the ball. I feel like they can run the ball more. I mean, Josh Jacobs I'm not going to say he's a workhorse type back, but he needs the ball more often. 1,065 yards this season just wasn't enough as far as I'm concerned. He should be a 1,200, 1,300 yard back.
He needs to slow down. You saw that zipper on his forehead from his mugshot this weekend.
Well,
just the young kid needs to calm down a little bit. I think Josh Jacobs is good, but what you got to add that up with Booker. Booker got like 100 touches this year. They're going to try to keep him fresh. They're not going to run him into the ground.
I see. I think. I mean, I said to you last year, Monty. I mean, because you're right. This year they're sitting at 17th. They're not going to get one of the top quarterbacks there. But last year, I thought they had the draft capital last year to move up, and they didn't. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, maybe Mariota also gets a shot. He looked really good when he played.
At a minimum, so I know that he was hurt at the beginning of the season. At a minimum, they need to bring him in on some type of a package that they could run some quarterback option. You saw when he came in, and granted, the Chargers were not prepped to play against him, but they need to have some kind of a package that on 3rd and 2, they can do something a little bit more creative than fake it to Jacobs and toss it to the fullback and then punt.
Like I said, Jason Hill,
a little bit more creative. Something. They just got to have a little more flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I have a Stephon Gilmore for you. Are you interested?
Yeah, give that and a couple of firsts, and we're in business.
A couple? No.
A couple of seconds, couple of thirds, something. Give me something.
You have to get something back. You just traded for Matt Ryan.
That's also true. The 18th pick and the final team that we'll really spend some time on here is the Miami Dolphins. They were ranked 27th in the preseason. They finished 15th. And the arrow is definitely pointing up on the Miami Dolphins this year.
My question, and I'll throw it off to Neil first because he's the draft guy. The Raiders just recently played Miami, and Tua looked terrible. He made the Raiders look like they had a pass rush. And then they brought in Fitzmagic, who had that no-look play that everyone saw all over the internet, and he won the game for them. Is Tua just learning? I mean, what's the deal? I thought he was supposed to be really, really good. And I would say he's at least the 3rd or 4th best rookie quarterback this year, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's been as bad as disappointing as Herbert's been encouraging and exciting. So yeah, it looks. I don't know about you guys.
Is it because his head coach is from that New England coaching tree or what?
Well, yeah.
Well, who's the OC there?
Yeah, quarterback.
Well, that's Chan who also retired.
Oh yeah,
they got retired from the. So
I wonder. I wondered in the last couple of weeks, was Tua injured or not? His arm doesn't look. It just didn't have the pop on it that he had in college or even earlier in the season. His arm strength looked real poor, and I wonder if that was an issue, if there's an injury going on there. But I think their head coach came out and said he's definitely the quarterback of 2021. I think he said that this week.
Should he be? That's the question.
Well,
is he good? Is he going to take a step forward? What happened? I was very, very disappointed when I saw him because I thought Tua was going to be. I love their head coach. I think Miami's doing a lot of great things, and they've got the quarterback. Just get a couple offensive linemen, and they're in good shape. And then I watched Tua play, and I'm like, geez, there's no reason he should be playing ahead of Fitzpatrick right now.
No, he certainly didn't look ready for sure. And who knows what's that about? Is he a good learner? Is he coachable in terms of learning the offense? Because he didn't look like it looked like they were paring back the offense whenever he played. And he always just seemed to look like he had no time to throw the ball. The game just seemed too fast for him. And Monty, if you were sitting there in Miami and you had the 3rd overall pick, as they do, it must be tempting, isn't it, to think of Fields or for Lawrence?
Who's that offensive lineman that everyone likes?
Penny Sewell, left tackle.
I think that's the pick.
Should be if you're committed to giving Tua the second year as a starter, yeah, absolutely. And you might even say it might be worth getting rid of Fitzpatrick to get so that Tua really is the undisputed starter.
How old is Fitzpatrick? He can't be.
He's 146. That might just be his beard.
Based on his beard, he was there when God said, "Let there be light."
Did they got to do one of those Brock Osweiler trades to get rid of him, or what? I mean,
I don't know his contract situation.
Fitzpatrick is 38.
Yeah, like I said, he was there when God said, "Let there be light."
I will also say this about the Dolphins. As I was looking at their games played, they don't have very many guys that played all 16 games. As I look at this, no running back played all 16 games except for Patrick Laird, their fullback, and no wide receiver or tight end. Oh, I'm sorry. Mac Hollins and Adam Shaheen. that are very low.
Never mention Mac Hollins again.
Those two are very low on the depth chart. And they're the only two that played all 16 games. Mike Gesicki only played in 15. So they had some injuries that impacted their offense for sure.
But they've got the draft capital now to really make a really big push forward in the next couple of years. If Tua pushes on, but like Monty says, it wasn't encouraging at the end of the year.
No, but we can also say, one, it's his rookie year, and two, he's a year off of a major injury / surgery.
Absolutely.
So,
and how many games did he start? Half a dozen games? Did he start that many?
9
games.
7.
And he didn't have his two top wideouts, right? So they got Devontae Parker, and isn't there some other guy who's really got banged up real early in the year who's kind of a promising second-year guy?
Preston Williams.
Yeah, he's supposed to be good. Both those guys were out down the stretch.
Yeah, Preston Williams only played in 8 games this year, so they had an injury problem on the offensive side of the ball. I think the arrow is pointed up for Miami, and like you said, they've got draft capital to maybe go after Buffalo next season. Just to go through the draft picks, Washington would be currently slotted at 19. These are projected picks from ESPN. Chicago at 20, Indianapolis at 21, Jacksonville picks at 22, thanks to the Los Angeles Rams. Cleveland picks at 23, Tennessee at 24. The Jets come back in at 25, thanks to Seattle. Baltimore at 26, Tampa at 27, Pittsburgh at 28, Buffalo at 29, New Orleans at 30. Green Bay comes in at 31. We had them in the preseason ranked at 7th. They finish at 2. And then Kansas City, who we had ranked at 1 in the preseason, and finish at 1 here at the end of the season.
What non-playoff team that doesn't have a first-round pick that we not touch on other than the Texans?
I guess the Rams. The Rams. We didn't talk about the Rams.
I said non-playoff team.
Oh, they are in the playoffs. Yeah, we talked about them all.
Okay. Just making sure.
That's everybody. Everybody gets a shot.
Did we talk about Philadelphia?
Yeah, we talked about Philadelphia.
Really? Did we talk about Philadelphia?
I must have glazed over at that point.
Yeah, you probably did.
So there you go. There's your off-season news. I expect because last year during the divisional round, we had a number of coaches that got hired going into the divisional round of the playoffs. So I expect we'll have some more off-season news going into next week. But you have Super Wildcard weekend to look forward to, and I highly recommend checking out that Nickelodeon broadcast on Sunday afternoon. That one's going to be fun. ThriveFantasy.com, people. 50%. We're gonna double your bonus. Next fan up, use that promo code, so I can at least be responsible for half of your gambling. I think that's it. I think we're done here. Oh, that's not my tagline. Here's Kofi Annan. There you have it.
Dear friends and colleagues, saying goodbye is never easy. I believe we can all feel proud of what we have done together, and through it all, you have maintained your professionalism and commitment and remained true to the spirit of the Charter. That principle.
We go out, we hit people in the mouth.